Someone make it make sense.
Probably a couple.
Happy Friday to everyone, and happy holidays also, as they are for some folks. I'm sure they're here. For others, they are approaching. It is a crazy, weirdly, but no, I'm not complaining. Weird in a good way. Warm day here. We've had a bunch of cold weather, and now it's been warm. Shout out to Black Witter. Happy to see you again. Second time today. Must be my lucky day. Happy to see you. So yesterday was crazy. For those of you guys, okay. For those of you guys who were here yesterday for Casey Anthony, you may remember getting jump scared by the pig picture. I'm almost done with timestamps for the episode, first of all. But second of all, I have successfully blurred out the pig picture ambushes where it wasn't expected. You know, as you guys recall, the first time I had it prepared with a redacted portion, but then they kept whipping the camera around and just, you know, for a split second showing. Anyway, I've successfully blurred it. So, which is exciting. So, you know, for anyone who's watching on replay crew, you'll hear us talking about it, but you don't have to worry about seeing the pig picture. Something no one should have to see. Thank you. Yes. So that's good news. Last night we had another, Bryan Kohberger stream, and, boy, that was an intellectual challenge to say the least. We went through the rest of the state's objections to the motions to suppress, but we also were really kind of trying to find, okay, we were reviewing a lot of things, but primarily it came down to Brett Payne and his statements made in the affidavit versus what he testified to at the hearing on May 30th, 2024. And because of the fact that there's inconsistencies. Well, there's a lot of inconsistencies, but also as it pertains to, could some of those inconsistencies have been maybe part of the foundation for these motions to suppress, and also the motion for a Franks hearing. Of course, IGG came up a ton. We went through the timeline in detail. In the beginning portion, just heads up for anyone who hasn't seen it, I do get November and December confused a couple times, but I figure it out and I correct it for the record, and I'm very clear about that. So initially you might hear me saying November when I mean December, but again, I make that clear, and so you don't have to worry, guys. But we went through a timeline, and I had a lot of helpful people in the chat. It was a mental workout, I will say. Happy to see you, Flash fan, and shout out to Iowa as well. Iowa, those pictures of Squeaky, I can't even. And shout out to Flash. Happy that Flash is here. We were worried about you yesterday, Flash. Hope you're doing okay. Because I was like, hey, we haven't seen Flash today. And I did not know it was National Coca-Cola Day. Learn something new every day, though. I wouldn't be surprised if there is one, because there is also, like, I don't know if it's national or international, but I know there's also a pickle day, and then there's also a squirrels day. But of course there's a squirrels day, but there's a pickle day. And actually there's a sandwich place here that gives out free pickles on pickle day. Yeah, Flash's favorite food is fried chicken. So basically this has been a journey trying to figure out what the heck is going on with this case. And yeah, so it's tough because there's gaps in the information, and then of the information we have, there's things that obviously kind of contradict each other. And so I feel like my task sort of is sifting through this information to put these pieces together to make it make sense, like the intro says. And then honestly, I should just say, how many times have you guys heard me say this, right? I feel like I've done this in so many cases, like with Ezra, with Alex Murdoch, where there's like there's like puzzle pieces, but like it seems like there's a lot missing. But then you keep looking at it, and then it's like, oh, maybe there's just a few things missing, and then it's like there's just one thing missing, right? So basically, it's like, in other words, filling in those gaps, but doing it in a way that it's not just speculation or guessing, but like methodically going through it through process of elimination. It can't be this, it can't be this. And that's kind of what I've done previously. That's kind of the approach I'm trying to take here, where I keep hammering these details, as you guys know, and hammering this timeline and going through these and trying to, again, put these pieces together without guessing or, whatever, because again, there's a lot we don't have. And there's misinformation, and you guys know how I feel about that. So, but that being said, we are here today to review the IGG hearing. Now, at the time when this happened, this is from August 18th, 2023. I was not covering this case yet. Of course, I was following it, but I wasn't covering it yet. So we've not watched these videos together on this channel yet. But this is going to have a whole different context now than it did then anyway, because we know a lot more now, and the IGG/DNA is really at the heart of this case for the defense. And I kind of touched on this last night, in the sense that the defense's motion for the Franks hearing, the whole thing is based on IGG, like in the title, right? And so that is strong languaging right there, that they think that's their, like, the issues that they see related to IGG and DNA in this case are strong enough to where it's like, literally all of this needs to be thrown out. This is all through fruit of the poisonous tree. So, oh God, gift wrapping presents. You guys, if you guys could see what my presents look like. Oh, shout out to, I don't know if this is like thank you knots or tie knots. Let me know if is that TY like thank you, but happy to see you again. Oh my God, the Scotch tape. If you guys could see the way I wrap presents, y'all would laugh and laugh and laugh. Oh yes, I'm just catching up here. Happy to see you guys. Oh, that's fun. You choir rehearsal, Flash Fan says. Yeah, the Scotch tape. I'll tell you what, one thing that I did one of these years was I got one of those tape dispensers, and it's like, I don't know, $3. I'll tell you, it was like one of the best $3 I've ever spent because it allows you to use the tape with one hand and hold the wrapping on the other hand. Oh, shout out to Candace as well. Having said that, what I said about my presents and how terrible is still the case. It looks like if you took a dog and asked a dog to wrap presents, that's what my presents look like. But it just goes a little bit faster having the tape dispenser. So I kind of tend to embrace it. I actually do. Well, oh, okay. Yes. I am a vegan. I don't care. Yeah. Blackwitter's on the right track here. That, I don't, I'm not that kind of vegan. Just, yeah. Don't, I have literally no thoughts. Literally, yeah, I don't, yeah. Tie knot, thank you. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Thank you. Yes, tie knots, excellent. So yeah, so here's what I do though with my paper. So I have like a tradition. I use dinosaur themed wrapping paper, and I usually try to get dinosaurs wearing like Santa hats or like Santa riding a dinosaur. And I tend to get a big roll of that, and then I'll use it year round. So if it's somebody's birthday, they're going to get like dinosaur Christmas themed. So I have like, I also have like dinosaur theme, sloth theme, squirrel theme. And, what's the other one I'll sometimes have? Like, yeah, I guess that's the main ones, like my favorite animals, but like crazy weird. And so what I'll do, what happened one year was I had one of my favorite rolls of paper. It was probably sloth theme or something, right? And I thought I had enough, and I ran out. And so then I had another one, which was like, let's say it was the dinosaurs Santa's riding them or whatever. And I like was only missing a little bit, and I didn't have time to go out and get more. So I had to like, how shall I say, ghetto rig, mix match, trying to think of the right words here, hodgepodge. I had to mix and match, let's just say. Okay. So these papers, wrapping papers, they're completely different. Like they're different colors. There's different animals, whatever, right? And I ended up loving it, and I thought it was so funny. And it actually works out because, again, I'm so terrible at wrapping presents that I always completely guess the wrong amount, and there's always going to be gaping holes no matter what. So now I just do it on purpose. So I've got like 2 or 3 different, sets of wrapping paper, and for every present, it's going to have a combo. So each present is like a one-of-a-kind creation, if you will, for the wrapping, because no two are going to be alike. And I don't even make sure that I don't even use scissors. Oh my God, guys, why am I telling you guys this? I don't even use scissors. So in other words, you're not even getting clean squares or shapes. You're getting like literally a mess. That's what it is. But then at least now, in a way, it's almost artisanal, handcrafted wrapping disasters. That's how I go with that. Right. Gotcha. Right. I understand. Well, I'm very sad. So Flash is saying that I'm the first vegan who hasn't called you evil for eating chicken. I'm very sad to hear that. That makes me very sad. You guys know how I don't condone people calling people evil for anything at all. But yeah, I don't understand people who think like that about anything, So we love a good derailing. You guys know we love a good derailing. Yeah, maybe I'll see if I can get a picture and this here shortly, and I'll put it in the Discord. You guys can see an example of what I'm talking of the shit show that I'm talking about. Because really, words don't do it justice. Just how horrible, in terms of like rapping skills. So yeah, I remember there were years and years ago, I used to try, and then I gave up on the trying and embraced the silliness, and it just works a lot better for me. Well, I don't think, hopefully they weren't being serious. That's just insane. I don't understand that at all. That's crazy. So let's all send good vibes to Blackwater, who is at the moment fighting with the Scotch tape, and I know how horrible that is. Godspeed to you, Blackwater. And yeah, I'm sure there were other things. Yeah. So again, we had 2 live streams yesterday. Oh, tonight we have another Shanna Gardner. I've said this before, and I'm going to keep saying this because not everybody knows about this case. But for anyone who's not familiar, this case is insane. Please check out the playlist that I have if you want to get caught up. We've done a speed run getting caught up. We're almost up to speed. By the time we get finished with tonight, we will be almost in present time. We will be all the way through October 30th of this year. So almost completely caught up. So like, actually, I would say after tonight, like one more live stream on Shanna Gardner, and well, maybe 2, because we have to get through all the death penalty motions, but then we'll be caught up. So, but that case is crazy, and it features Jose Baez, my current favorite defense attorney. And you'll get to see him in action with fuckery on a whole other level in a way you've never seen before. I can promise you that. Yeah, I agree with Blackwater saying get new people. That's insane. Yeah, get new people. I agree with that. That is insane. Very, very insane. Yeah. You deserve to have better people for sure. So, but okay, back to the case at hand here. Bryan Kohberger. This is going to be the IGG hearing. As I've called it before, I've been calling this the hearing with the people. And thankfully, because you guys are awesome, y'all have just understood which hearing I'm referencing when I say that. Thank you. But yeah, this is the hearing with the people. Also, Prosecutor Santa's hair is more trimmed, I shall say, at this juncture. I feel like look at that versus like where is it? He has different styles, I guess. So anywho, without further ado, let's get started on.
Okay, we are on the record. This is State of Idaho versus Bryan C. Kohberger, CR 29222805. Mr. Kohberger is here in the courtroom. He is represented by the team of Ann Taylor, Jay Lobson, and Elisa Massa. We also have representing the state, Mr. Thompson, Bill Thompson, Ashley Jennings, Ingrid, Beatty, and Jeff Nye. We have several motions set for today. The state's motions are motion for protective order that is related to the investigation.
So, okay, I'm glad you said that because that helps me orient you guys and myself to the time where we are in space and time. Where are we in space and time? So we covered, good God, how many live streams ago? Recently, maybe 2 days ago. We went through, it was the live stream that was devoted to IGG documents. Okay. I think that was 2 days ago. And we went over the state's motion for a protective order and other things, right? But in other words, that's the motion he just referenced from June of 2023. So that motion for protective order is in June of 2023, and then this is 2 months later in August of 2023. So just to orient ourselves. So all those filings that came out that summer, that was like June and July. And there were like a ton of filings about the IGG, but that's also when they were having all those filings about the media, the cameras in the courtroom and stuff. Anyway, a lot was going on. So this is August 18th, just to orient ourselves again. After all that craziness. Also around this time, there was the whole thing about, notice of an alibi, a lot going on. So yeah.
Genetic genealogy DNA issue, which is related to the Mr. Kohberger's motion to compel, seeking those genetic genealogy information and discovery. We also have a motion to reconsider the order staying time for speedy trial.
Trial was going on, so everything was happening.
Opposing that, a second motion to stay proceedings regarding alleged irregularities of the grand jury.
I miss Judge.
And from the state, we also have a motion to compel notice of defense of alibi and a motion for scheduling order. So that's what we're going to hear today. I think we're probably going to use most of the morning.
No, Flash. No, the Zoom. The only time they've had the Zoom is when they've had like witnesses appearing via Zoom, and like certain hearings were kind of arranged that way. They have had cameras in the courtroom for every public hearing. I know that I know why you're asking this though, because the setup on other hearings is sometimes different. I know why you're asking. Like, for example, even last night, the hearing we were watching that was from 2024. The layout is different. It's like a Zoom layout, but the cameras are still there. It's just, I don't know how to explain that. I'm not technology savvy enough. I think what maybe the change was I know at some point they changed it to where everything was going to come through Judge's YouTube channel. Now that's not the case because he's not the judge on the case anymore. But it was like that was the only place you could get it. And so I guess they had one camera, and then the way he was able to stream it was like through Zoom. But basically, I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't know if I'm explaining things correctly. I'm not technology savvy enough person. But there's been a combo platter, let's just say, of cameras being there or a Zoom style, shall we say? I'll be honest, I don't even use Zoom. So I use Skype. So like for teaching. So I don't even know what all, in my mind, Zoom means people are there virtually, like not in person. But again, sometimes we've seen, for example, Chad Daybell, right? That to me, I would call like a Zoom style, but that was obviously all in person, right? So I don't know. Am I making any sense? It's like a Zoom style layout, but like no one's there. It's not virtual, right? There's people. Anyway, maybe you guys know what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not, luckily I've never met a militant vegan, but I would not be friends with them. So this is the famous Judge, correct? I loved Judge. I know a lot of people didn't like Judge, that everyone's allowed to have their opinions. I just want to say, I love Judge. That's my personal opinion. I really liked him a lot and I really miss him. And, yeah. So, right. The Zoom meeting setup. Right. Yeah, it's this. That's exactly how I would describe it. I just don't really understand what the dealio is with that, where like why it looks like it's virtual when it's not virtual. I guess that's kind of why that's part of my question is what's the dealio with that Zoom layout when you're all there in person? So I don't know. Maybe someone in the chat at some point will know how to explain this to us. But yes, that's why it's a good question. So here, this is before they had switched over to that style, if you will.
The motion for protective order and third motion to compel. We expect some testimony from Mr. Kohberger's team, and that's where we're going to start. So anything preliminary, Mr. Thompson?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Taylor?
Nothing preliminary, Your Honor. We're ready to call it.
Okay, so we'll do that, and then we'll move to argument from both sides. I thought about who should go first in terms of the argument. Mr. Thompson, go ahead.
No answer.
Yeah, I mean, who would first make the
Sorry.
argument.
Just the subtitles, y'all. It says Mr. Trump. Look at this.
No, it's good.
Yeah, I mean,
There was a really good one yesterday with Casey Anthony. What was it? Christmas McDonald's? I don't remember what it was supposed to say, what the actual words were. And it was right before one of the pig jump scares. But the subtitles said Christmas McDonald's, and I was laughing. And then I went from laughing to screaming because the pig jump scare. Yeah, I mean, you know, people have had a lot of thoughts on Judge. I don't really know. People just say things, obviously. Yeah. You know, I think sometimes people just like to complain. You know what I mean?
who would first make the argument?
Which is
on
okay.
the,
People are
action
allowed, you know.
order? Would you prefer to do that after you hear the argument from the defense?
It may make more sense, Judge, to do that. I think the record will be better for Your Honor.
Okay, that's why I suggested that. Thank you. All right, so we'll hear the testimony, then argument from Mr. Kohberger's team, and then to the state.
Your Honor, just for the record, Mr. Nye and Ms. Beatty are the ones handling this particular motion. Ms. Beatty has the witnesses, the proposed witnesses, Mr. Kohberger.
I really hope, I'm just going to put this out here into the universe. I really hope Frankiefigs can join us today, because for anyone who doesn't know yet, Frankiefigs, who I call Franks, has just been approved or accepted into a program to start studying and learning FIGG. So forensic, investigative, genetic genealogy. And she already has a good deal of knowledge. Anyway, I'm so excited. We want to be able to congratulate her again for those of you guys who haven't had the chance yet, but also she will be a great, I mean, she's great anyway. She was always great, right? But it's just going to be awesome to have her input too, as it pertains to some of this stuff. Because as they call it, you know, we've heard it a million times, the new frontier, right? So she can help us as well. I love having such a diverse Squirrel crew, and everyone has their own knowledge they bring to the table. So I'm putting it out there into the universe. Franks, you know, actually, I need to do it correctly. Hold on real quick. Let's do this the right way. And honestly, I haven't done this one in a while. Let's do this the right way. Let's do this the right way. Go. Calling all squirrels. Go. The squirrel call. Calling all squirrels. Okay. So hopefully that will reach you, Franks. But yes, we shall continue.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. All right, call your first witness.
Your Honor, along those lines, I should inform the court that I'll be handling all of the
That's
witnesses
wild.
that we call today. Ms. Matha will be presenting our argument in support of our motion.
That is crazy.
And
It's for that fact, though.
probably the rebuttal to the protection order for classified statements.
Okay, you all may need to remind me as we go along here.
Sounds fair enough to me.
Okay, Ms. Beatty.
So here's the thing. What you're seeing happening right now is why they had to, well, and actually what's funny is if you look at the TV screen, you can see what's in the courtroom is a Zoom setup, right? But you can see right here is why they changed it, because watch. They're zooming in on the defendant, and also technically, honestly, you could even see what they're looking at. That's whatever they're looking at the defense table. That shit right there is why they changed it, because you're not supposed to be doing that. They didn't, and they kind of agreed they wouldn't, and then they broke the rules basically. So then they got put in timeout, and now we're in the Zoom meeting situation. But oh, why did I pause this initially? Oh, yes. I just wanted to say, for anyone who did not watch all these hearings at the time and is like, why the heck does it sound like this? Just know that it's like a running joke with this case that they used a legit potato, like an Idaho potato, that they recorded the sound on an actual potato instead of a microphone. That's like the running joke, because it varies from bad to basically useless. It's, you know, it's gotten a little bit better, I guess, as of late, but I just wanted to point out that the sound, and so for those of you who've already seen this, you're well aware and you're like expecting this, right? The sound is awful. It's just, it is what it is. Just the way you can handle it. The way I handle it is I just picture, like, literally, I picture the potato there in the courtroom and they're using a potato and it's like, you know, yeah.
Okay.
With regard to Ms. Vallow and Mr. Mercer, the state made its concerns on these two witnesses clear and is requiring.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy. I'd forgotten about the zooming in on the defendant. Like, this is a wild flashback trip down memory lane. of when they used to do this. Cause like, wow, like that's wild. It's like, I forgot this was a thing.
But the state believes that calling two attorneys to testify about legal conclusions during a discovery dispute is simply not proper. Both Mr. Mercer and Ms. Varlow consulted
Wow.
with attorneys on
More?
discovery issues
I'm
and
shocked.
calling them to testify about legal conclusions and a discovery
I mean,
dispute is handed out to the state.
You can see why this is too much. This is too much.
Calling prosecutors to staff witnesses to testify about training that they've done in a specialized particular area. That's a path I don't think we want to go down, and it's not relevant to the court, and it doesn't fall within 702, which requires specialized knowledge for the fact finder, which is the court in this case. Additionally, Ms. Taylor is an attorney practicing in Idaho who's well regarded and seen as one of the preeminent defense attorneys in the state. There's nothing that these witnesses can tell the court that Ms. Taylor can't simply consult with them about and argue with the court. So our position is that these witnesses' testimony is duplicative of whatever Ms. Taylor can argue, and it does not fall within the scope of 702. With regard to Gabriella Vargas, the state is objecting to her testimony.
Okay.
As well, Your Honor. We received her declaration.
All right. Gabriella Vargas is potentially the most important witness of this hearing. She came up a lot last night in the live stream. There's some really important earth-shattering things that will come out in her testimony that the world has to deal with and figure out a way to deal with, like in a lot of ways. Like there's some like, you know how like with technology and things change, right? And it's like new rules, new laws, new, like society has to figure out how to handle things. It's like that type of stuff, right? That has huge implications. But I just wanted, again, because of the potato sound, I just wanted to say, so right now we're hearing from Miss Beatty from the state, and she's trying to say why we shouldn't be hearing from these defense witnesses. But also I wanted to mention once the subtitles go away, and there's a second where they go away, Miss Beatty's hair is flawless. So let's all appreciate her hair as well. But right now she's talking about Miss Vargas, who again is maybe one of the most important witnesses of the hearing today.
Yesterday, there was no CV attached. Ms. Vargas is being submitted to this court as an expert
You're now up now in a way.
witness, and the state has no way of presenting her expertise without a CV. There's no way
Here,
to
here.
verify anything in
Beautiful.
It puts the state in essentially an ambush position where we're being presented with this.
That
witness
is
with no way to
insane.
verify her
That's
qualifications.
insane.
We would ask that this witness be excluded from testifying today as well. And then finally, the state would just make a blanket motion and limiting that these witnesses not be allowed to testify about legal decisions or legal arguments. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
So
The first two witnesses.
Miss Taylor's going to make her, they're having this preliminary argument. I just want to say something. So again, we went through a lot last night. It was a lot of brain exercises in the hearing, like there was a hearing, but in the live stream for Bryan Kohberger last night. But one of the things that came up was the possibility that, brace yourselves, guys, if you haven't considered this, the possibility that Bryan Kohberger potentially had, this is wild, right? Okay. Like you guys know, I've told you guys how I've submitted my DNA to like my heritage, right? Because I wanted to figure out what my, full ethnic makeup was and whatever, right? For fun. Like, how you can submit, everyone knows, right? You can submit to those sites. So what we discussed last night, one of the many things, was the possibility that maybe Bryan Kohberger actually had submitted his DNA to one of these sites. So think about how that changes things, right? Because then if they're comparing DNA on the knife sheath and they're saying IGG and, normally the way it works, you're building a family tree. It's funny because I had talked about this as if like a hypothetical on a different live stream of like, what if the suspect themselves had submitted their DNA? But it was like, to me, it was like, I feel like, I guess in my mind, it was like, that seems like such an obvious problem that they must have already figured out how to handle that. But maybe they haven't, like, because it seems like at some point somebody should realize that's bound to happen, right? Like at some point, if it hasn't happened already, somebody will be a suspect in a case and they will have submitted their DNA to one of these databases because it's common that people submit their DNA, right? And that's where the opting in and opting out comes in. So we're going to get to more of that again in this hearing, but just for now, we need to be wrapping our heads around the fact that as to all the confusion about where did they get his name and the timeline, again, we discussed this at length last night and other live streams, but there's so much confusion. It's like nothing's really making sense. There's contradictions and, it's IgG, but it's not IgG, and they didn't lie on it, but they needed to, and all this. It is an interesting thought, because if in fact he did submit his DNA, and so they actually were able to get a match to a name, it completely changes things in a lot of ways, but also that could explain a lot as well. So just something to consider. Flash, that's so nice of you. Thank you. Flash is saying, where's my mouse? Just wanted to let you know you're awesome. I'm glad I found you. Appreciate it. Well, we appreciate you, and we're glad you're here. So glad to have you as part of the Squirrel family. So just something to think about, because that really, like, for me, when I think about the landscape of the different issues and the timeline and everything in this case, again, that to me seemed like such an obvious thing that I threw it out, like in my brain, right? That, again, I even was joking about it. Like when I was reading through those different documents, I'm like joking when they're talking about they get a pool of people, family members, I even included in there, and potentially the suspect, right? Because again, they could have submitted a sample, but I said it almost jokingly because it seemed like either too obvious or too scary if that's the case. I don't even know how to explain it. It was like, I don't know. I'll have to find a word. I'll have to find a word to explain. But it's almost like, I don't know. It's just weird. It's just weird because it's like a gut. Like my gut was like, well, of course they could be included. But then my logical, rational brain is like, no. There's no way that could happen because that would destroy everything. Right? It's like, there's no way. So, anywho, yeah, there we go.
The state
Oh, you're here.
Varlow and Mercer.
I was actually, for anyone who's just joining us, I was just recapping some of the things that came up from last night. So yeah, some of you guys were here and heard about some of those things.
Are two people who have been known to the state for quite some time. What they say to you in court now is their objection was made known on July 14th in their reply to, in support of their protective order after we did a response to their motion for protective order and an objection to it. That it's not an objection to them testifying. They spent a lot of pages telling the court why the court should not take any attention to the declarations that were attached to our third motion.
So I'm actually going to skip ahead because there will be more argument, and also that's like impossible to hear. And you know, it's not, you know, they're arguing at the beginning of the hearing, but I want to jump ahead to the witnesses because that's really the most important part, especially since we can't. Now, again, I'm going to pull it right up to right here. So once again, please, can we appreciate Miss Beatty's flawless hair? Look at that hair. Look at that hair. Y'all, what I would give for my hair to be able to look like that. I have very naturally frizzy hair, I just have to say. And that, my hair could never look like that. That is so beautiful. I just really love it. Anyway, let's hear from Judge though.
Pointing on specifically genetic genealogy.
Okay.
And their experience with that within the law, I think does have some relevance.
Okay. So again, so what's happening here, right? The state is objecting to these witnesses. Okay, this in and of itself has a whole different vibe when you consider what we talked about last night. So again, the defense has 3 witnesses that they want to bring to this hearing to talk about IGG. And the reason, right, this is the whole point. What's the point of this hearing? This is to compel the state to, okay, no, well, that's not exact. It's to show Judge why the defense needs access to the IGG, right? Because again, this is in response to the state's motion for protective order. The state's like, hey, we shouldn't have to turn this over to you. The state does not want to provide the IGG at this point in time. We're back up to June 2023. State's like, nah, you can't have it, okay? Defense is like, we need it. It's crucial. It's vital for our case, right? And that's just the bare bones of the thing, right? And so there's back and forth. And so they have to have a hearing to hash it out, right? And so that's what this hearing is, okay? And again, 2 things are happening, right? This hearing is addressing that the defense has the motions to compel, which is compelling the IGG discovery, and then the state's motion for protective order, which is we're protecting it. We're not giving it to you, right? And so in support of their case here for the defense, they have 3 witnesses. That's the IGG witnesses, right? So what they've been just discussing through the potato microphone is that the state is objecting to the witnesses. So the defense is like, here, we got these witnesses who are going to explain why we need this information. And the state's like, nah, they're not qualified. They blah, blah. They're, you know, again, they said one of them didn't have a CV, whatever the case may be. And then the defense made their argument. So now I'm going to back it up just a second because Judge is now saying what he thinks about should these witnesses be permitted to testify today or not.
On specifically genetic genealogy and their experience with that within the law, I think does have some relevance, potentially. And I think
Thank you for that.
it would go to the weight.
Yeah, thank you for that, American Princess. And the Idaho Statesman is, from my experience, is a reputable outlet. I feel like I've actually tried to look at some stuff on there, and there's a paywall, so I don't get very far. But I would find that to be credible. One thing that is interesting though is I feel like why have we not heard more about it, right? Like for example, why have we not seen it on other media outlets? Because this is kind of groundbreaking news, right? Like if he did submit his DNA, I mean, because normally people are so quick to report things that are just literal rumors and have like no basis, right? So when you've got something that actually has some basis to it in reality, but also is like groundbreaking news, it's weird that we haven't, you know, I mean, I haven't seen this anywhere, right? Until we were talking about it last night. Like, I feel like this should be like all over the place, if, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I mean, it's probably a good thing that it's not if they don't know for sure, right? Because, you know, the gag order and whatnot, that only applies to the parties and the attorneys and the people involved in the case and like the victims' families. Like, in other words, that does not apply to like the public or just the news media. So anywho, Flash wants I'm going to butcher this. Au gratin. I'm not French, obviously. I know there's probably a bunch of ways to pronounce that correctly and incorrectly. What was it I was struggling with yesterday? Oh yes, it was larvae, but I called it larvo. I called it a bunch of different things. Anyway, funny. The
consideration. The other thing that I am concerned about is this is a death penalty case. And if I deny particular presentations that one or the other side believe have some bearing on the case, it's probably more wise for me to allow it, even if it might be on the edge, and not allow that method. It's especially important in a case like this to have a record for appeal. So I'm not saying one way or the other how this might fall, but I think it's important to preserve the record. Now, however, I don't want to get into arguments about the law or what that exactly means. I think I have a pretty good understanding of what the issues are about the genetic genealogy issues and why the state wants to get more information about that. I also understand why the state believes that it has nothing to do with the case. And that's what I'm going to hear from today.
In the IGG live stream from, again, I think it was like 2 days ago. Again, I've been referencing this because we covered the motion for protective order. We covered the back and forth between the state and the defense, but we also covered Judge's order. Now, having said that, Judge's order on this came out October of 2023. So this hearing happened before he made his order. But because we were doing all the documents back to back, just it made sense with, for the setup, we already read the document. Exactly what happened was I was like contemplating, I was, should we go back and watch the hearing? That's what I was thinking. And then I realized we need to do it. So, but yes. So in other words, his order was from October. We did already cover that.
On both sides.
Like,
with regard to
it's Vargas. Okay.
She is here. I don't know where she came from, how far away.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to just allow the state to come back and address that.
What's funny is there are also funeral potatoes though, right? Gratin, it's also funeral potatoes.
So that's why I landed on all of that. So I'm going to deny the objections. We shall proceed with hearing testimony. Now, if you get too far,
all right, so he's denying the state's objections, proceed with the testimony.
This is what the law requires.
Okay, so he's in other words, he's saying these witnesses cannot make legal conclusions.
Okay,
They had that potato microphone situation.
so call your first witness.
All right, we're gonna call their first witness.
If I made one point of clarification, it occurred
Not yet.
to me while listening to the court talking about genetic genealogy and really got me in the focus. There are a couple of other areas contained in the motion to compel that have to do with the other DNA that state doesn't have complete discoveries to us that are included in that first motion to compel that are up for today. The big focus is then the genetic genealogy piece, but I wanted to make sure that that was still in the scope.
Well, my understanding was that the state did provide all the information about the laboratory, we'll say the laboratory DNA.
Okay, this is important. Let me back this up and put it on normal speed. Hold on. Okay.
And the genetic genealogy piece, but I wanted to make sure that that was still in the scope.
Well, my understanding was that the state did provide all the information about the laboratory, we'll say the laboratory DNA.
The judge saying, my understanding is that the city already did provide all of the information about the laboratory DNA.
That was, that analysis was not related to genealogy DNA. Am I mistaken about that? What are you?
Hold on, what is he saying? I thought it sounded like marine biology. I know that's not what he said, but that's what it sounded like. And the caption couldn't catch it. And now we have the spinny wheel. Woo!
That analysis was not related to genealogy DNA.
That analysis was not related to what now?
Was not related to genealogy DNA.
Genealogy DNA. So what he's saying is, because remember, so there's the DNA as in the knife sheath, and then there's the DNA as in the dad trash DNA. Judge is separating that out from the IgG stuff, right? What he's saying is that his understanding was that the state had already turned over all the other DNA analysis that it is not in the category of the IgG DNA. So what he's saying is essentially like they've already turned over, like the dad trash and the knife sheath DNA.
Am I mistaken about that? What are you saying that they didn't provide to you?
Your Honor, in our third motion to compel, we had a section called standard lab discovery.
Okay.
And that has to do with other DNA profiles found at the scene.
Okay, right. Okay, so she's saying the other DNA profiles found at the scene. Interesting.
They have provided full discovery for the sheath, the DNA found on the knife sheath.
I'm just gonna, because again, it's hard to hear. They've provided the full discovery for the sheath,
but not the other 3 unidentified male DNA samples, 2 from within the house, 1 from outside the house.
2 from within the house and 1 from outside the house, other unknown DNA samples.
All right. So if I'm understanding your question there, or your assertion that we're talking about 3 potential analysis of DNA that was not provided to you, but that has no connection to Mr. Kohberger.
Correct.
Any response?
Your Honor, we didn't realize this was going to be an issue today. We had given the defense everything that we received from the lab. They'd asked for DNA workups on other people. To the extent that they don't have them, they weren't done. We can't produce something that doesn't exist.
The number of times that we've heard him say that is like insane. We can't produce something that doesn't exist. Honestly, that could be his slogan. He's really, it's like, I don't know which hearing was when he says it the first time, but we hear this a lot.
We provided everything. There's one outstanding lab report that relates to the forensic examination by the lab personnel of the crime scene itself. Will be received today. That's the only outstanding lab report. Everything else, along all the notes, is what there is, and it's been provided to the defense. They're hoping that there's something else there. It's not there.
Taylor?
Well, Your Honor, it's part of our third motion to compel. It's still something that we don't have. We also don't have the unexpected corrective actions, unexpected results from the Idaho State Police Forensics Lab for the 6 months before and the 6 months after November 13th, 2022. We did get some, but it's a narrow scope. and we ask for the full year, 6 months before and 6 months after. That's also in our motion.
Sure. I understand. Your responsibility is to turn over every rock. But you can't get things that don't exist as well. So, I mean, there has to be some level of trust in discovery. You're all sworn attorneys. And so,
I mean, this is just really interesting to hear this and think about this in hindsight, right? And as it pertains to other cases, what he's saying is true, but it's just such an interesting thing to think about, right? What he's saying is there has to be some level of trust and discovery. You're all sworn attorneys. I mean, again, this is where Florida does it right, I feel like. But, you know, this whole thing, right? Part of what has been going on with this case, especially early on, but I'm sure it's still the case now, but it was especially, we heard this a lot early on, right? Of like, you know, the defense saying, we don't have this such and such thing. And the state's like, this doesn't exist. Or sometimes it would be, this doesn't exist at all, or it exists, but we don't have it. And so the question would be from like, you know, as they go back and forth and they're both like, you know, yeah, fighting in front of the judge, and then judge is like, well, if it doesn't exist, they can't turn it over. And then, so the question becomes then, does it exist? Does the thing exist? Which is like crazy, right? Because that shouldn't be something that needs to be debated, right? It should be yes or no. Does it? You know what I mean? Like the fact that that is something that is being questioned at all is mind-boggling when it comes to the discovery process, because that should be the easy part, right? I don't know. It's just interesting to think about, right? Because again, what he said is correct. Like there should be a level of trust. You should be able to trust when they say, you know, when the state, in any state, right? When they say, you know, we don't have it or it doesn't exist, whatever, it should be like, you should be like, okay, yeah, you know? And again, in a state like Florida, I feel like that maybe would be more of the case because they have such a transparent and open discovery process. But it's so crappy, like, because again, even though while he's saying that and that should be the case, is it the case? Like, I don't know. You know, it's like whenever they talk about the state playing hide the ball, right? It's like that type of bullshit. And it shouldn't be the case. Just saying.
Mr. Thompson is saying that there's one more.
I heard. I haven't read them yet.
Coming your way today, I heard him say.
Maybe not today. We were waiting to receive it so that we can process it for discovery. It's supposed to be in any time.
Okay, I misunderstood that. So it's coming soon. It has to come soon because we're 6 weeks away from the trial. So.
So at this point in time, they're thinking the trial is 6 weeks away. Isn't that funny? This is in August of 2023. Did you guys hear that? Hold on. Just for the sake of memory lane and like, listen to this. Wow. Well, if it will cooperate.
Lab report that is coming your way today, I heard him say.
Maybe not today. We were waiting to receive it so that we can process it for discovery. It's supposed to be in any time.
Okay, I misunderstood that. So it's coming soon. It has to come soon because we're 6 weeks away from the trial. So.
LOL. At the point in time that this hearing is happening, they didn't know it at the time, of course, but not 6 weeks away, more than 2 years away is actually what is accurate.
We're going to be very rushed about a lot of things. Talk about that
oh, you have to pay.
So what about the other claim, Mr. Thompson? Do you want to address that? The other mistakes?
Correct.
I'm sure someone will make them public.
Unexpected result log. You have that in part, but not the whole script.
I don't know what exists that we haven't received. We provided all the requests to the lab, and they've assured us that they have provided us with everything they have within the scope of those requests. I'm not sure what else to say. I mean, we can make a supplemental inquiry to.
I mean, it is interesting because he's like, you know, we provided everything. I'm not sure what else to say. And it seems like he could have stopped talking there. And then, I mean, we can make a supplemental inquiry. Well, then that means you don't have it all? I don't know.
Clarify that after finishing court today. But I'm kind of sitting here saying, Judge, give me everything we know to exist.
Well, that would be wise to check on that.
We will.
Because we don't want this to come back on the eve of trial.
Yes, sir.
Or, you know, 4 years from now. and appeal.
We missed you.
So I want to make sure that
Let's just say big shout out to Kids Smith. So happy to see you. And for anyone who doesn't know each other, welcome to knowing each other. May I introduce you guys? I don't know. It's just funny because we're like a family here. But so happy you're back, Kid Smiths. Awesome. Yes, we've been doing a lot. We can use all the brains for this and some of the other cases as well. All brains on deck. No. Well, no, I mean, like, there you can get court documents for free a lot of places. Again, it just depends on the jurisdiction, depends on what it is. I would imagine that if you're saying you have to pay for the Lori Vallow motion, someone will make them public. I'm sure. I have no doubt about that. And then they'll be free. I mean, certainly that will happen if it hasn't already. I haven't looked into it, but yeah.
that we have combed through all the information that has any bearing or argument of bearing on this case. That's all.
Ms. James, making a note right now. We'll send the inquiry out later today.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Your Honor, just for some clarification, we also ask for all emails, text messages, electronic messages, or other messages. Some have been provided, but we don't have assurance that that's all. And so for the same reason, we want to make sure.
Look, he's getting mad. He's getting mad, guys. Look at him. Okay. Wow. This is so crazy. So she's like, we haven't been provided all emails, text messages, and communications. He stands up while she's still talking. This situation right now.
That we have the complete file.
Okay, Mr. Thompson.
We have told them, we have given them everything that we know to exist. We've asked the lab provided it to them. At this point, all I'm hearing is speculation is they think maybe or they wish something else was there. But as far as we know, it doesn't exist. I don't know what else we can say. You can't respond to something that isn't real.
Remember what I said, guys? I was like, he's gonna have a slogan. This is like his little catchphrase. Also, I did, it's funny too, because I was thinking about the holiday season. Prosecutor Santa is especially relevant right now. Spicy Prosecutor Santa. And his attitude right now is like he's gonna be giving everybody coal for Christmas this year.
Sorry, Judge.
We're just sorting it out.
You're all
So
good.
we're making sure that everything that there is.
Kids, you're all good. You know what? Here's the thing. You're not alone. Guess what? Flash in the chat also was brand new to this case as of a couple days ago. So you guys are in good company. And perfect example. So Flash is saying prosecutor who LOL. So this prosecutor who's back, we're seeing, if you guys can see, you can't see my mouse, but do you see the fellow standing up, right? That's him from behind. That's the lead prosecutor. He's been named or, within the Law 2 community called Prosecutor Santa because he looks like Santa. Okay. Now he gets spicy. So people were calling him like Spicy Santa or Spicy Prosecutor Santa. So I made this because all the things, right? But this is him from the front. So I know it's confusing because you're seeing him this is him from the front. So that's him. So see Spicy, right? When he gets all spicy and then he's got his Santa hat, that's him. But honestly, his beard sometimes is longer than that. That's a short version of it. But it's just perfect in time for the holidays. But here he is being all mad and saying they can't make magic happen and whatnot, basically. But also, again, just to speak to anyone who's not up to speed or this is from this hearing that we're watching today is from 2023. So if for getting up to speed, this is perfect because we are reviewing things that pertain to the IGG and the DNA. So hopefully that makes sense. Like if you're not current, it's all good because we're going back in time today.
Yes. Sure.
Yes.
Except for the ones that you don't want to do.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Sir.
yes. Food comes up a lot and people have been talking about, I'm going to mess it up again. What was it? The potato dish has come up today and on other days. And people were talking about that. It's come up. It's also been coming up because it's relevant to the Shanna Gardner case. So yes.
We'll make an additional inquiry to the lab to see if there's anything else in the form of emails that they haven't already provided to us.
Thank you. And Flash already told me, and I just forgot how to say it.
I would add, there are times.
Thanks, guys.
In the world of the law. And sometimes people forget.
Camera.
So sometimes
Camera had a little fit.
things fall through the cracks, and so it's always healthy to make sure that it's done thoroughly.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're already, I'll see Mercer.
All right, now we're on to the first witness. Yay!
Just one moment. Are your experts in the courtroom right now?
Yeah.
Do they need to be in the courtroom?
Your Honor, I asked if they be allowed to remain in the courtroom, seated where they are, so they're just kind of.
So we just when we thought we were in the clear. So now what he's noticing is that the witnesses are already in the courtroom, as in they're the other witnesses that will testify after this fellow are in the courtroom, right? Now, think about it this way, right? Like the exclusionary rule that applies during trial. So this is pre-trial, obviously. What's he gonna say?
Right. Any objection to that? I don't know who would like to hear.
Or we also have the witnesses considered.
I'm going to exclude your witnesses, so they're not hearing what the other witnesses are testifying by, and that'll be, I think, a cleaner, more accurate response. And then I don't want to have them reacting to the other testimony. We'll hear each testimony, each witness's testimony be independent. Okay, so can you please have your other experts excluded from the court?
Where would the court like them to go? This is a media intensive environment, and I don't want them to bother by media.
The law library.
May I escort them there?
Sure.
Okay, they're gonna. All right. So because again, my potato microphone. So they're going to escort the other witnesses to the law library where they can wait there. Okay. So in other words, the other witnesses are not going to be permitted to stay and listen. So let me go ahead because they're going to escort them away, whisk them away. As you can see, they are gone from the table, and now they're swearing him in.
Do solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mercer. Go ahead. It's water there. I'll take care of that.
Look at that deputy
Once
go.
you're seated, please state your name and spell your last.
Yes, my name is Stephen with PH Mercer, Mercer.
I appreciate the
Thanks, sir.
clarification of
David
that.
Taylor.
Good morning, Mr. Mercer.
Good morning,
What
Okay.
city and state are you from?
Rockville, Maryland.
What do you do for work?
I am a licensed attorney in Maryland and the District of Columbia in the field of criminal defense with the.
All right. So first of all, he's an attorney, but what caught my attention immediately? Oh God, that pause.
Specialization.
Oh, that's not any better. Okay, well, whatever. It is the Maryland thing because the other night we were reading about the IGG and the laws and all that, and Maryland, of all of the states, is the state that has the really only, but also therefore the most stringent restrictions on the use of IGG and how you can, in terms of protecting the public and people that submit their samples. And again, we covered that the other night, but it was just interesting because it was only Maryland and it was another M state. I forget what other M state it was, but it was Maryland and maybe Montana or something. But Maryland took the prize for recently putting laws in place, right? In this, again, quote unquote, new frontier. So it's just interesting that he's from Maryland.
DNA and forensic litigation.
Oh, I'm going
There you go.
I was licensed in the state of Maryland in 1995
That's a good idea.
and in the District of Columbia in 1997. I'm also a member of several federal bars, including the
You're
Supreme
all
Court,
good. You're
where
all
I served
good.
as co-counsel in Maryland v. King and DNA database case from 2013, as well as the Fourth Circuit, the DC Circuit, and a number of federal districts.
It's going to be 3 months. It's going to be 3 months. 3 months expected. Is 14 weeks, is that the same as 3 months? Yeah. Yeah, 14 weeks. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the estimate. So it'll be the longest trial that a lot of people have seen for sure. Oh, thank you for asking. Good question. IGG, Investigative Genetic Genealogy. So, Kits, I'm sure you're probably familiar with like 23andMe, Ancestry.com, right? All that where you can submit your DNA and you can either build a family tree or you can just learn your heritage like I've done. more specific, like down to the very specific things. So IGG. So this is the new frontier again, as they call it, because of how law enforcement are using it, right? So a good example, right? Take the Golden State Killer. Was solved, and other cold cases, right, have been solved using IGG. And just a quick overview again. Usually the way it works is when they have an unknown DNA sample and they have no suspects, right? So that's why, especially in cold cases, it makes a lot of sense. So you've got DNA, but like you have nothing to go on. And it's generally a long process, and it can take weeks to years. Okay. And usually what will happen is it'll narrow down, and eventually you can get to like a distant family member, or maybe a close family member, or a relative of potentially someone who contributed that DNA sample that you're using. So it gives you leads basically that way. Now, part of the things that could be putting a monkey wrench in the system with this whole thing is there's a possibility that the suspect in this case potentially was one of those people who sent his DNA into one of these sites and got matched with himself, potentially. Okay. Adds to the whole thing. It is a big factor. And in fact, how big a factor? Just recently, the defense in this case has filed a motion for a Franks hearing, which I believe is going to be granted. And they are saying that essentially, if what they are suggesting is in any way true, the case is pretty much, I don't know, gone. Because basically, the motion for a Franks hearing is based on the IGG. And it's all through the poisonous tree. Like essentially what it's saying is that everything that was relied upon for the search warrants from day one, the search warrants, and then therefore the subsequent search warrants, and then therefore the arrest warrants, and then therefore the charges, all that, right? All stemmed from the IGG, and it's all through the poisonous tree. And that's the very basic way of trying to explain it. And it's very interesting because this is a matter of first impression for Idaho. But if indeed it is so that the suspect himself did submit a sample and was matched to himself, this is not just a case of first impression for Idaho, but this is a case of first impression for the country. And the law has not figured out how to deal with this yet. This could be anyway, the implications are huge because, and you're going to hear why, because especially the last witness of this hearing will explain how the way that this could happen and could involve some big problems that law enforcement potentially did. The implications of this are really big. So it gets huge. Yeah. Potentially, yes. Because it's all through the poisonous tree. Because they had nothing, and Need Some Z's, glad to see you again. Thank you. Need Some Z's was here last night for the chaos as we went through all this with our brains. Yes, happy. I'm glad you're back. By the way, I've been, going through, we've got some people in the chat who are kind of brushing up, some people who are new to the case, and some people who were here last night. So I'm kind of trying to keep everybody up to speed, but I was just reviewing where we are at with this, that potentially what if it was his own DNA because he contributed a sample, and that like my mind is still wrapping my head around that because again, like I said, it was one of those things where that seemed like so obvious right off the bat, but like my brain couldn't do it because it's like, it can't be true because everything will blow up. Right. So like I put it out of my head anyway. So it's just crazy. Yeah. I mean, gavel to gavel trial is life though. You know what I mean? So yeah, the implications will be big. And again, this is because of this new frontier, as they keep calling it, the IGG, there really isn't a lot of case law. And so even if you didn't have a crazy extenuating circumstance, like maybe the suspect submitted a sample or maybe law enforcement broke the law to get to it, even if you don't add those into the mix, right? Even alone, just the IGG factor there is already adding in, this is a case of first impression for Idaho, right? So you can start with that and go from there.
I want to back up a little bit and have you tell me about your educational background.
So I have a undergraduate degree, bachelor's degree in English from Syracuse University, 1984. Juris Doctor JD from the District of Columbia School of Law from 1994.
And you mentioned you have a specialty in DNA. Where does that come from?
So my experience with DNA began with the first constitutional challenge to Maryland's DNA database statute.
Remember,
that
yeah.
Started in
Yep.
2002 in the case.
Remember, like I said, Maryland is the only state that has like really in place rules and laws regarding the DNA databases and whatnot. IGG.
State v. Raines, where it raised a Fourth Amendment challenge to the compelled collection of DNA from convicted offenders. Prevailed on that case in the trial court of the appeal.
Oh, I should also point out, because I was giving an overview of how IGG works for Kitsmits and anyone else who doesn't know. I should mention also, when law enforcement would use this is when, again, they have an unknown DNA sample and they go and they could run it through CODIS and they don't get a match. So again, it would be a situation where, because if you're in CODIS, if your DNA is in CODIS, it means you've been convicted already of a violent, charged with a violent, well, wait, hold on. God, now I can't freaking remember. Because I'm sure one of you guys in the chat will remember if it's charged or convicted. But, I believe it is convicted. I believe it's convicted. But anyway, it's, of a violent crime, right? So usually it's not like not every person who commits a misdemeanor crime, they're not going to be in CODIS, right? But for most of the cases we watch, they probably are. So we're talking, homicides or attempted homicides or things of that nature. But so in other words, again, they're going to run the DNA through CODIS. They don't get a match. That's when they would result then to using IGG because it gives them more leads.
Which is now called the Maryland Supreme Court. The Maryland Supreme Court, in a sharply divided 4-3 decision, reversed, sent it back for trial, tried the case. And that was really the beginning of my experience with forensic DNA litigation. And then from that point, I continued in that.
And again, I'll just reiterate.
Attended training with the District of Columbia Public Defender Service. I began to collaborate with the Innocence Project and the Forensics Division at the Maryland Office of Public Defender.
Okay. So what he's saying is actually really important, that this IGG can also be used to exonerate people who have been wrongfully convicted. Like again, the Innocence Project he just mentioned. So I was going to say too, I just wanted to reiterate that whenever Frank's is here, hopefully maybe she'll come today, but Frankiefigs has just been approved to start working with forensic investigative genetic genealogy, and will be able to contribute a whole lot to how this works from an insider point of view. But I'm just, because you guys know how I am, I'm just confirming about that's funny. Okay, so the question I was just asking, I was like, wait, CODIS, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, wait, don't they have to be convicted? I'm like, no. I'm thinking if they're arrested, that's enough. Anyway, turns out both are correct. I was right on both. So CODIS has 3 different indexes. It has the forensic, which is DNA from the crime scene, right? It has the offender, so that's correct, convicted individuals, and then it has arrestees, which means DNA profiles from people who were arrested. So all of the above, just to be clear there.
Defense work and innocence work. Began to work closely with
but from what I saw, convicted, but also they've got the other tabs from what I saw for people who are arrested, which makes sense, right? Because think about it, right? Like if you're, because it can take a long time to go if you get convicted, right? The years in between,
Scientists actually did the wet chemistry work, had numerous opportunities to tour law enforcement labs, including the NIST lab, as well as Montgomery County's lab, Bodie Technology, the FBI lab, as well. And so I continued working in the field.
Well, I mean, and the other thing is it really depends on the browser too,
DNA cases as well as consultation.
The
Through my private
algorithm,
practice,
behind
in
the scenes,
2010, the public defender
whatnot.
recruited me to head up the forensics division at Maryland's Office of Public Defender, which is a statewide public defender system.
Right. I'm going to go past some of his background, even though it's really, really interesting, but because we want to get to some of the, again, the key witness of this is going to be Miss Vargas.
Used law review about shadow DNA databanks.
Shadow DNA databanks.
And those are the principal articles with respect to forensic DNA.
And I think you mentioned a couple of professional organizations that you belong to. Are there others?
Yes, so I'm
past his organizations. I know he did a good job. Good job, sir.
as well as the State Bar Association.
Still on that. All right.
And the interpretation of the test results that were obtained through searching of genetic databanks.
Okay.
You are here.
Kits, I appreciate your candor. Kit says, I only read the first sentence that popped up and it did include forensic collections. And I just ignored that. That's hilarious. Bravo. Excellent.
Yeah, so the question,
Twitter's faring well with her Scotch tape battles, by the way. If you're still listening, Blackwater, we love you. She's trying to wrap presents right now.
was what would a reasonable defense attorney do when confronted with DNA evidence that needs to be litigated? What are the minimum practice standards? So I'm not here to discuss Idaho's discovery rules or.
Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so what he's going to be, remember, the point here is the defense is trying to say, here's why we need this information, right? This is why we want this discovery. He's simply saying, here I am, I'm an attorney, I do stuff with DNA. I'm here to tell you what the minimum standards are for them to be able to do their job correctly. So this is laying the foundation. I'm actually going to skip to the next witness because while that is important, that, in other words, for the defense, that isn't really necessarily the information that we are seeking, I don't think, today, because I feel like it goes without saying that it's important for them to have the discovery, right? So long as it's not violating anybody's rights, obviously, right? But of course, they can't just, common sense isn't enough. You have to prove it in court, right? As we know. So let's just see it where he finishes. Let me see here.
Building the tree identified from the genetic genealogy piece, the genealogist piece, in its own separate areas. They're not two separate lanes that they combine.
Yes, they go hand in hand. You do one or the other. I mean, they go together.
Why?
I'm sorry?
Can you tell me why? Can you explain why you say they go together? Why you code?
Well, the SMP profile is what is searched in the ancestry database to then identify potential relatives. And then family trees are built out. That's the object of the SMP testing. What's important to know from a defense perspective,
I think this is a different
trial work and potential areas of cross-examination. Garner's going to be introducing a statistic that is premised on the assumption of an unrelated universe of people. So what's the chance of finding a profile in a population where there's no relationship relatedness?
It's actually good information.
Profile and anyone in
it's good information.
Universe. And so, as you know, from talking about this whole concept of friendship genealogy, people who are related have similar DNA. And so the statistics change when you are talking about the chance of finding a profile within a related pool or related universe of individuals. And that's a legitimate area of inquiry and cross-examination for the defense to demonstrate the limitations of the statistical question that the state is presenting to its expert witness. And
That's accurate. Kit says, this doesn't exist in court until the jury goes to deliberate. Before that, everything must be laid out in court as if for a 5-year-old. That reminds me of an Office reference in the episode called The Surplus, where they have a surplus. They have a surplus in the budget, and Oscar is trying to explain to Michael Scott how the budget works. And Michael Scott goes like, explain it to me as if I'm 11. And then he tries to explain it. And he's like, explain it to me as if I'm 8. And then it's like, explain it to, and he still doesn't get it. He's like, explain it to me as if I was 5. And he's like, okay, your mommy and daddy give you $8 for a lemonade stand. Anyway, just, you guys probably know what I'm talking about. It's funny. It just reminds me of that. But yes, exactly. Kids is funny. Yes. No, you are a good researcher.
So, for example, who the population of related people are.
Okay, we're going to jump to the next witness. So let's pull this up. Okay, cool.
And you are, go ahead. Well, first, a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to overrule the objection about her foundation being expert. And then you were given the opportunity to look at the PowerPoint. And so where are we?
Your Honor, we began to review the PowerPoint, and it was immediately apparent to us that we would need to consult with one of our own experts. There's a lot of scientific terms, charts, graphs.
So this witness has a PowerPoint.
To respond right now. So what we would ask the court to do, so we don't pull things up today, would be to just give us the same opportunity to reserve cross for a later time, like the other witness who was just disclosed yesterday.
So you know what's so funny? So they're saying this is actually going to come up. So they're saying they're going to reserve cross. What they're saying, this is really interesting. What they're saying at this point in time, let's pretend we don't know what we know now. They're saying they're saying, oh, we just got these witnesses, they were late disclosure, whatever, so we're going to reserve cross. So they've already said that for the first witness. They said, we're going to reserve cross, and the reason is because late disclosure, okay? Now they're saying same thing with this witness. We didn't get a chance to review the PowerPoint, so we're going to reserve cross for later. This is going to come full circle.
Okay, so we need to come back.
Excellent.
To, inform cross-examination.
Oh, I know of this case. I know of that case.
All right. Dr. Larkin, I think
Here's
you're
the copy
prepared to
here.
start with your PowerPoint now. That just means we might have to come back another day and there might be more questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
PowerPoint? All right. I just screen share.
And then that's the same episode. Well, I'm gonna just update my ticker here. That's the same episode where they have like the chair model, right? And then it's like they sing Bye Bye Miss American Pie, but like the chair model version. Anyway, it's freaking hilarious. And then there's a really funny part too where where Michael Scott is like talking about the chair model, and he's like, we'd have lots of kids. And then there's like a pause and him and Dwight look at each other, and then it's like drinking whiskey and rye. Oh God. I could just go on and on with the office references, like I've said. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm gonna update this for this witness. New witness on the stand. So crazy.
There we go. Okay.
And there's the PowerPoint.
We are participating. All right. Dr. Larkin, we are going to be talking
Oh,
about
right.
technology
Larkin. Okay.
and how it works. So I'm going to give us the first slide
Right.
like that and ask you a question.
I think you need to get played.
If I get played, then
So they're having some technical difficulties. I'm sure no one is surprised by that. Classic move. Spin goes the wheel, spin goes the wheel, spin goes the wheel, spin goes the wheel. I was thinking I can do holiday themed spinning wheel songs while the spinning wheel is spinning. Have yourself a spinny little Christmas. That's it was so much easier doing the sidebar theme than the spinning wheel because the spinning wheel sucks. Well, right, I know, right? Yep. You've never watched it. That is incredible. Do 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 do. Off theme song. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Spinny wheel, spinny wheel, spinny wheel, spinny wheel. Why does this wheel just keep spinning? Thank you for that suggestion. That's a good one. Yeah. It's kind of crazy, right? It is. It's like, are you listening? Spinny wheel, are you listening to our conversation about tech difficulties? This is wild, isn't it? Wow. Maybe I should. Oh, okay. There we go.
We need another expert.
all right. Yes, we need another expert. I think we're ready. Now, are we going to talk about how genetic genealogy works?
Yes.
Tell me what kind of DNA genetic genealogy is.
Okay, so DNA is just DNA, but there are
Kits
a
will.
few different inheritance.
I will tell you right now, Kits would love The Office because I know Kits. I've known Kits for a while here. I mean, for a couple of years, probably, right? Anyway, I think I can speak to the fact that it's her sense of humor. So Candace says she loves to sing. Yeah. Yeah, but it's like I'm dreaming of like a Christmas with no spinning wheel, for real though.
So there is mitochondrial DNA, the Y chromosome DNA, and then what we call autosomal DNA. And those are the main types that we
Could you just have that spelled for the court reporter?
Oh, for Pete's sake, she can spell all this. Okay, let me jump ahead a little bit.
Thank you.
Well, she spells things.
What is autosomal DNA?
So autosomal DNA is inherited from both of your parents, all 4 of your grandparents, all 8 of your
Okay, the background on DNA, how DNA works. We'll save this because this comes up in every trial pretty much, and we will hear it again in this trial.
You know, who your immediate relatives are. Autosomal DNA can give you a much, I call it
On that. No, no. Okay,
Test. What do you get?
Okay.
How do
before I
you
get
know
the
it's
song going.
Right, when your results are finished, you'll send your email and you can then log into the website. And once you do that,
Okay, this is actually great. She is explaining how it works. Okay, so this actually makes sense. So she is now explaining how it works with the IGG websites such as 23andMe, Ancestry.com, MyHeritage. She's explaining how this works. Now, remember, the witness who's going to come after her, who's like maybe the most important witness, is going to explain how it works from the person who's doing the IGG research, the person who's actually performing the IGG research. So this is actually good information. Let me back this up a second. Now that we're out of the history of DNA.
But for the person who did the test, what do you get? How do you know when something happens?
right, when your results are finished, you'll send your email and you can then log into the website. And once you do that,
I will say it takes a long time to get those results, by the way.
you'll see all of the companies offer what they call ethnicity estimates. And so it will tell you,
Yeah.
you know, whether you're descended from, you know, German stock or Scottish.
That's
or
what I
African
did.
Or, you know, whatever your sort of broader ethnic background is. They will give you a list of matches, which are other people who've taken the same DNA test in the same database and who share DNA with you. Yeah, so that's the 2 main things that you get from that.
The same database. What do you mean by that?
So there are multiple companies that offer these services. So the 2 biggest ones are Ancestry DNA and 23andMe. So for example, if I tested Ancestry and my sister tested 23andMe, we won't get matched to one another because we're not in the same database.
Which is interesting.
Where you test is specific to where you're going to find your related.
I find that part interesting. So what she was saying, because again, the potato, right? So what she's saying is like, for example, if her sister used 23andMe and she used Ancestry, they wouldn't get matched to each other because they used different, because these are private companies, right? This is where again it gets tricky, right? Because think about it, right? Law enforcement, and then we've got private companies, and this is people that send, right? The people that send this DNA, and they're either wanting to learn if they are predisposed to have a certain health condition, for example, or they're wanting to learn their ancestry, right? Or they're wanting to maybe connect to a long lost relative or find out if they're adopted or whatever, you know, things like that. And private citizens. And so you can see where this gets iffy already. Okay. We're just getting started. And so, but the reason it's interesting is, so she's saying if her sister uses a different website, right? Different company, even though their processes are probably identical, right? And there's all these different companies now, that they wouldn't get matched to each other. So you're only going to get matched to someone within the same company, the same business, right? So why does that matter? Because think about it, right? That means that if you're law enforcement, or let's just say that you're a private citizen even, but you have unlimited income and you can log in and submit profiles to all these places, right? Or if you're law enforcement, right? That if you want to have as many, like you can't just use one and it'll cover all your bases, right? That's the point. That for each single specific website or company, it's a whatchamacallit. It's a whatchamacallit. No, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a closed loop. Like it's self-sustaining. I can't think what's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, so you would have to go through each single one. You have to go through all of these, right? In order to have the access to the most things to compare your DNA to, right? Because that's how you get the results, is you want to have as many other samples to test against as possible. Hopefully that makes sense though. Candace, you're going to make me cry. So, but I'm glad. I'm just glad. And I'm glad that you're running, right? I don't even know that I knew that I don't even know that I knew you were injured at the time, but I'm glad that you are glad that you are doing better. And thank you for being here, for always being here. And we love you. Oh, that's interesting. I guess this is Xana Kernodle's sister, I would imagine. Correct, Kit Smits. Bing, bing, bing. Kit Smits is saying what I was trying to say. So they don't share a database. Each company has its own database. That's correct. Kit Smits. That's correct. Oh, it's Kaylee's grandma. Oh, okay. Oh, you're saying and Kaylee's grandma. Gotcha. Okay. Mother. It's her mother. Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. I just couldn't remember the name. So yes. So, but you can see why this does get more and more interesting, right?
Okay. All right.
You get all the cookies. You can have all the cookies and all the cheesy potatoes if you want those too. Right. Yes, I remember that. Yes, thank you.
And
and it's interesting because I'm just remembering now that you mentioned it, right? That Ann Thompson was initially representing her on like a drug charge or something.
So how do you get into these things?
So at Ancestry DNA, there's a sharing system. So the person who's taken a test can essentially authorize me or invite me to view their DNA results, and then I can do that in my own account. I never have to.
Well, this also is interesting. So she's explaining how it works if you are using one of, for example, Ancestry. She's saying how is it like, in other words, what happens if you're using this? What is that experience like? What do you learn about the other people? Because again, we're dealing with people's DNA, right?
Into their account. At the other services, with the exception of GenMatch, which we haven't gotten to yet, I would have to log into their accounts to see their DNA matches.
You mentioned that, you're backing up a little bit, but you mentioned that you find out a lot about like your ancestry, meaning and where you come from. What other kinds of information can you find out?
So, for example, at 23andMe, they offer health reports. Shrink reports based on your DNA that can tell you if you have a likely higher than
shrink reports. Don't know what that.
Certain cancers or certain diseases. They tell you things that are kind of silly, like do you like cilantro or
what? Do you like cilantro?
Crohn's drinking more caffeine than the average or less. But they can tell all of those things from the DNA test that they've done.
Cilantro. Hang on.
23andMe does, and then there's a third-party site called Prometheus that you can take your data file and upload it there, and it will run these reports on you. PROMETHEASE. And if I got that wrong, it's not because I'm lying.
You changed slides, and now I have a slide that says microwave. What is that?
So a microwave is the actual piece of lab material that we use to run this test. It was designed, so microwaves were designed for biomedical research. They're designed for scientific
microwave.
And
I was like, wait, am I hearing microwaves? Yeah, they're saying microwaves, like not the kind you cook your cheesy potatoes in, apparently. So, I'll make a note to do that later, Flash. Right? Candace says that's a good idea for a program, one that cross-references all these databases, right? And see, now what that's getting to in a way is kind of like a CODIS, but for people that weren't necessarily arrested, you know what I mean? For people who aren't arrested or convicted. But yeah, so like, again, because what CODIS is doing is it's got all of them, right? In one pot, but 3 tiers or whatever we covered earlier. One pot of cheesy potatoes. So I guess this Dominique the Donkey song is somewhat legendary. I've never heard of it, which is interesting. That's funny. So, yeah, but exactly. But right. So, and you can see where this gets tricky because again, it would be a great idea. But now what you're talking about is here's where it gets tricky, right? Because these are all separate companies. So what I picture and Candace, I agree with you. I think this is the next idea this is where it's headed. But now what you're talking about is what would be happening here? Would one company buy the rest of them out? Maybe it's possible. Would one company buy the rest of them out? By the way, 23andMe started as a Shark Tank idea. I remember watching that when that happened at the time, when they got a deal, 23andMe, and it was like people were like, I don't know about this, but of course it's like hugely successful. Anyway, so yeah, but like, would one company buy the rest of them out potentially, right? But now again, it's such an interesting legal question, because again, the overlap is, where does law enforcement get to use this information from private citizens? It's just so fascinating. There's so many different things, so many different discussions to be had about this. And as we know, the law is always centuries behind, right? With all this. That's so interesting. By the way, I love cilantro. Oh, that's wild. So Kit says is confirming the cilantro thing. So is need some Z's. Weird. Wow. I had heard that some people think it tastes like soap, but I didn't know that that was a genetic thing. I just figured people had weird taste buds. Right. Oh, happy to see you again, Heather. Glad you're here again. Heather was here last night and helping a lot also as we were, again, all of our brains were on deck trying to figure this shit out last night. Thank you so much for your help, everyone who's here. Is this another Christmas song? You guys are so funny. Sidebar. That's awesome. Yellow curry is my favorite of the curries. Oh, and this is your favorite pho place. Don't even get me started on pho. It's been too long, and it has the cilantro. Yes, that's now I want pho. What did I try to say when I said shank? Oh God, I can't even remember. I combined two words at once. I don't remember what I said, but it was two words combined. Combo platter, as I will say. Right. It is an interesting legal question because these are private records. Yep, exactly. And it gets more complicated. When we get to witness number 3, be prepared for shocking things because it gets more complicated. Oh, thank you. Yes, Shark Tank. Right. Shank. That's right. It was Shark Tank. Yes, indeed. Vegan pho is it's not mushroom broth, it's just vegetable broth, and it has like the vegan pho that I have, it has all the regular pho stuff. It's just vegetable broth and then with tofu instead of meat. And then it has all the pho veg and all the regular stuff. I think the only difference is the broth and the tofu. I haven't had it in a long time, but now I want it. Okay.
STRs that you use for CODIS. My rates pretty much scan your entire genome.
Y'all. Okay, I'm gonna be quick. This is great. People love talking about food. So I know. So by the way, what it looks like pho, or sorry, hold on. It looks like pho. It's pronounced pho. That's the short version of the actual full name for the dish, which I'm not going to try to pronounce. But there's a longer name, I'm pretty sure. But pho, it's a traditional Vietnamese, like, I guess you could call it a soup, but I feel like that's such an understatement, and it's amazing. And it's so delicious and healthy, and it's it's amazing. Oh, did this just happen? Attack in Germany. Wow. Daryl Brooks style, right? They're different. Okay, on the type you get. Yeah. So, and one thing that's the pho that I've had that's really interesting about it is like it's like a hot dish, but then there's this component of raw vegetables, and you guys know how I love my raw vegetables. Where they call it the pho veggies, where it's like bean sprouts and like cilantro and like hot like spicy like peppers and I forget what else. But you put the raw and they pile that shit up high, like it's like piles of it especially the cilantro, and you take that raw vegetables and like you add it to it's like the broth with the cooked vegetables and like the protein for me, tofu. It's amazing and everyone should try it. Oh my God. The funniest thing too was whenever we're talking about these different cases, like pro se, like what if Daryl Brooks was representing Sarah Boone? Like what if Daryl Brooks was representing Lori Vallow? Or what if Sarah Boone was representing Lori Vallow? Oh my God, my brain's gonna explode just trying to think about that. This is unhinged. I love it so much. I would eat a ghost pepper donut all day if they make a vegan version. If they don't, I could make a vegan version. Just get me some ghost peppers. I love spicy food. Need some Z's is sorry. Need some Z's is saying not to derail anything. Just wanted to update about the attack. I don't know how you could derail how that's possible because we're having like 5 different conversations at once, which is great. It doesn't bother me. Totally fine. So yes. By the way, there's a YouTube channel, I don't remember the name, that does a really funny South Park animation of Daryl Brooks, and it takes it literally from the trial, and it just animates it with South Park like style, and it's amazing. If you guys haven't seen that, I can put it in the Discord if you guys want to see it.
Looking at, so we talked about autosomal DNA. They look at about 600,000 individual bits of your autosomal DNA. Those are called
I do want the
single nucleotide polymorphisms. So NUCLEOTIDE and then BOLY.
Y'all, sorry. Brief one little story about donuts here. So when I was training for a marathon, this was years ago. I was still living in Boone in the mountains. Okay. And I was running a lot, obviously. And so, and I've always been vegan. So I decided I was like not able to keep up with the caloric intake. I was not able to keep up with calories, right? It was like I couldn't eat enough to even come close, no matter what. Like it was like a full-time job to try to get the food. Right? So anyway, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to make some vegan donuts. And I hadn't made vegan donuts before. And I was living in an apartment complex and I was friends with all my neighbors. It's not a long story, but it's pretty funny, I think. So anyway, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna make these vegan. So I was like, well, I looked at the recipe and I was like, I probably should like double or triple this, right? So I didn't really know what to expect, you guys. I was sitting there making these frying up these donuts, these vegan donuts for what felt like hours, because by tripling or whatever I did, it might have been doubling the recipe. It yielded like 1,000. It must have yielded like 1,000 donuts. So in my apartment, oh my God, I'm trying to paint you guys a mental picture. In my apartment, I literally had donuts like stacked to the ceiling to where I opened all my doors and windows to my apartment, and I was like yelling. I was like frying donuts, but yeah, trying to like also simultaneously yell to the neighbors, come take the donuts, because I couldn't keep up. I had nowhere to put them, and I like needed the neighbors to come with bring buckets and take as many donuts as they could. And then they got full of donuts, and then anyway. That's my donut story. It was really funny. Hopefully you guys liked it. There's a lot of ways to make vegan chocolate. I mean, honestly, just dark chocolate. If you go to the grocery store and you just get dark chocolate, right? Like it could be 60% cocoa or higher, but the higher the percentage of dark chocolate, the less likely. But like, for example, when you're dealing with like 70% dark chocolate and up, it will be vegan automatically. It'll only have milk in it if it's some sort of like milk chocolate variety. Not where you thought it was going. Where did you think it was going? Right. Yeah. Dark chocolate is automatically vegan. But even if it's like milk chocolate, you can make milk chocolate with like a milk substitute, right? Like dark chocolate. But if you want to add in some sort of, again, like coconut milk or some sort of there's so many substitutes these days. Like when I was growing up, it was a whole different thing, right? Nowadays, you can go to the gas station convenience store and get vegan alternatives to things. It's just wild. It's like crazy. It's just a whole different world. Like a whole new world. Like there's a vegan everything now. It used to be not like that. Sorry. Flash says he's burned a milkshake before. Please enlighten us on that one. Happy to see you again, Just Beth. Cacao. Oh, Flash says that the thing I burned them, right? That would be, yeah, no, it was just that I made like thousands of donuts and literally couldn't even figure out what to do with them all, and they were piling up to the ceiling. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, that does seem logical, right? Yeah, that does seem logical. Yeah. We do need the burned milkshake story. I agree. You put it in the microwave? Why did you put it in the microwave? Which is funny because literally where I paused this, she's talking about microwaves. Just funny. Oh, you were 6. You were 6. That is really funny. That's really funny. As far as burning food stories, my mom takes the prize for that, and I could go on. I've got some really funny stories about her and burning food. Good question, right? It depends because, how much do they weigh in comparison to a duck, and a loaf of bread, and will they sink and whatnot? I'm not dead yet. Just Monty Python, just random Monty Python references. Oh, you don't have a way to ventilate? That's crazy. Oh, wow. That's not safe, Kitsmiths. You got to have a way to ventilate your kitchen. I feel happy. I'm just going to randomly just do references to things and just randomly. Yeah, I'm getting better. You're right. That's like one of my favorite parts. I love it so much. Oh my God. Your arm's off, y'all. Can you please find the picture and put it in the Discord? The picture of the burned milkshake. That is amazing. That is amazing. So a couple things. Glad you didn't set the house on fire. Kitsmiths, please get ventilation for your kitchen. All the different things. Okay, we're going to jump back into speaking of microwaves.
Oh.
I agree.
These are individual bits of DNA that are known to vary among people. Most of our DNA is identical, so looking at those bits are not going to tell you who's related to whom. They look at these microarrays specifically target the chunks of DNA that we know vary between or among individuals. And so that uses higher levels of DNA than you typically have for forensic purposes.
Doing more like when you talk about skin and tumor squatting, you have to have a lot of it to do this.
You have to have a fair amount of DNA to do a microarray.
Well, how does it
Show you guys something real quick here too.
There is an alternative. Alternative method called whole genome sequencing, and this is there's whole genome sequencing and the specific way they go about it.
Like how much do you want me to go in?
And that will actually work on lower levels of DNA. It will work on lower quality DNA, so DNA that might have been broken down because it's been exposed to elements for a while. That will work better on DNA that's contaminated, so it might have bacterial.
I'm going to show you guys something real quick. For anyone who hasn't seen this, some of you guys have seen this probably. But I made this just because we were talking about Sarah Boone. And I made this. I made this when this was going on, when she was still in trial. Never mind the ticker because it's not related, but yes. So I made this. So because remember, those are the dogs. Initially I tried to use her actual dogs. But if you guys recall, there's like one picture from the trial or maybe 2 that have the dogs in them and they're impossible. Like they're just useless. So what I did was I found, because she says she gives a very specific like red Boston. Anyway, I found the specific dog breed, right? And ones that were like what she describes. And then I especially love the derp face here. This is my favorite part. It's my favorite part. So because every time she would say dancing with the dogs, all I could think, I pictured in my mind this image and it was driving me crazy. And so I had to then make the image happen. So the funnest part, maybe most difficult part was actually getting the dogs part to replace stars and look like it. That was actually a real challenge. You would think it might be easy, but it's actually, you can't just say, hey, make it look like this. You have to anyway. But yeah, so that was part of it. I made, this was like my brain. Every time she would say dancing with the dogs, I pictured this. So this is what I was seeing in my brain. And now you guys can see it as well. Hopefully you enjoy that. I haven't covered her unhinged letter. Of course, I've read it. I didn't know if anyone wanted me to cover it. I already have a thumbnail made for that. That has some funny jokes in the thumbnail, you know, as per usual. But I haven't covered it yet because I figured everyone's covered it, right? But of course, yeah, the unhinged letter is a lot. It's a lot. Is that, oh my God, yes, like you want me to do the letter? Okay, fine. You talked me into it. Okay, we can do it. We can do it. We can do it. We can totally do it. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think I'm doing part 1 of the Murdoch appeal. Maybe we'll also do Sarah Boone letter. We'll do it. We'll do it. I tell me about it. Tell me about it. Like, I can't even, because I want to shuttle myself over there. Like, it's going to be on another level. It really is. It's hard to even picture, right? Because it's like, you've got Daryl Brooks, like they've got that, like that's its own category, right? Then you have what Sarah Boone would have been, right? Which I think we have a pretty good idea of what it would have been because we saw her in action a little bit. And, you know, I almost picture Lori Vallow in a way of being kind of a combination of the two, of both of them, in the sense that, like, she's you know, she's going to follow the court, I would imagine, right? She's going to follow the rules, unlike a Daryl Brooks, right? So that makes her kind of similar to Sarah Boone, but she's probably not going to be in the same reality with us, which puts her more like a Daryl Brooks. You know what I mean? So, you know, now obviously I say that, that's not me diagnosing anybody. Hopefully you guys understand what I mean by that, right? You know, goes without saying, hopefully, but yes. So let me now, pull up the thingy-mabobber. That's the technical term. But it is going to be bonkers. I know. Can we all just go there for that, please? I know, right? If she's half as out there as she was reading her letter. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Oh, without a question, Lori's more unhinged than Boone. Without question. Without question. That's why I'm saying it's funny, because she's kind of like, that's where I say she's kind of like the two, right? Because the rule following aspect of Lori, right? She's not unruly. She's not, you know what I mean? Like, she's following the rules. Do you guys see where she's kind of a bit of both? I mean, she's her own category, obviously, but just trying to picture it, you know? So, oh, more, there's no question. Yeah. Yeah. I know. Road trip, right? Squirrel Crew World Tour. I mean, it's just, her new thing is trying to say, oh my God, Tylee did it. By the way, I'm so surprised I was able to say Tylee, because my brain buffered for a second because of the cases that I'm covering right now. We've got Kaylee Gonzalez, right? We've got Kaylee Marie Anthony, then we got Casey Anthony. There's probably, I feel like there's other ones, and then we've got Tylee. So anyway, but her new thing is that Tylee did it. So I don't, you know. Candace says her son thinks if we ever do a road trip all together, there's a high probability. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's accurate. Accurate. Very accurate. No one's victim blaming. Oh, yeah, you're saying Lori's right. Yes, Lori is victim blaming. That's right. Yes. Her new thing is that Tylee did it. And that she's protecting Tylee. Don't ask me why it makes sense, how it makes sense, because it doesn't. It doesn't. Mexico. Candace says, I told him to keep the bell. That's so funny. Yeah, the chaperones. You guys, y'all, memory lane. Right. Yeah, memory lane. Do you guys remember during the Ezra trial? Speaking of which, Jordy, where are you? I've missed you. I've been thinking about you, actually, because Jordy loves a good shit show with a trial, and I'm like, hopefully he's watching Shanna Gardner. But do you guys? So we talked about doing a road trip to go. we were going to be sidekicks. We were going to go visit Ezra in prison. You guys remember that was one of the funniest. My face hurt from laughing so much during that live stream, and how we were going to like, oh my God, how we were going to write her letters and like bribe her with mochas so that she would do an interview. And this is where we came up with this. That was such a fun day. This is where we came up with this, the hipster shark weasel with the mocha. And I remember also Kit Smith saying she would need to chaperone. Oops, that was also, so memory lane again there. We have so much fun. So we love a good hybrid animal as well. Yeah, I know. And like we literally, and actually the thing is Jordy lived within driving distance, right? To actually be able to go visit, to actually get to the wherever she was being kept at. Just because Jordy was our Chicago squirrel, to my knowledge, still the only Chicago squirrel. So yeah, oh my God. Yeah, y'all. I'll just say, like, you know, okay, so like this one time, so like here's an example of me with like how I roll squirrel style. Like, you know, I used to have a red mohawk in college, and so back in college, I went to see Radiohead live. Shout out to Radiohead, as per usual. And at the time I actually had the red mohawk, and so, you know, me and my friends, we were all, you know, music majors. So we drove from Boone and went to go see them. So we all bought, you know, broke, right? So you buy the lawn tickets, which is the cheapest one. So that puts you out in the lawn, right? So you've got like an outdoor, you got like a theater, and there's like a stage, and there's like, that's where the band is, right? And then in the lawn, you're like, you can hear the speakers, but you can't see the people, right? Far away. And so we all had these lawn tickets, right? And so we were all, you know, camped out. They had the blankets, and, you know, everyone's chilling. I don't know what got into me, but I was like, I'm going to get in the front row. And the tickets for that, I don't even know. But even back then, this was a long time ago, they were really expensive, probably hundreds of dollars, right? So like, you can't just get in the front row. There's security, you know, you can't even just get in the third row. Like, you're either in the lawn or you're like VIP basically, right? And so like the whole area is blocked off where there's actual seats and you're actually like a person with a ticket. And so, so here I go, you know, squirreling, you know, squirrel style. And like, I'm just determined to get up there, right? Because they were about to play Idiotech. And so I was like, I have to do this. And so anyway, so I'm like, y'all, I was like hiding in the bushes. Why am I telling the story? It's like hiding in the bushes where there's security. So I was watching, they had the security guards pacing up and down, back and forth. And I was hiding in the bushes. And so I was like trying to time it. So I was going to like do a squirrel sprint, you know, when like they weren't looking, and try to get in there. Right. So I tried it the first time. They caught me and they're like, get out of here, you. Oh, I've got plenty of pictures. Yeah, I got plenty of pictures. And so I got like, you know, they're like, get out of here. And I was like, okay. Well, came back. I tried a second time and they're like, get out of here, you. Okay. I came back for a third time. But this time I had a better idea of how fast they walked, these people, right? Because what I needed to time it with when they were going to be facing the other direction so I could get in, and I had like a split second window. But what's really funny is this time what had happened was there were some people in the first row who were seeing me do this, and they had an empty seat near them or something like that. Like a friend didn't show up, and they were like wanting to help me out. Okay. So they were seeing me doing this. Okay. So what happened was, and I didn't know this. So on this third time, I'm like, all right, third time's a charm, right? And so I go, you know, squirrel sprint. And these people see me and they're like waving at me, like, come on, come on, come on. And I'm like, whoa, what? Like, I thought, do I know them? I didn't know them. And they're like, come on, come on. And I'm like, okay. And they usher me in before the people see me. And they're like pretending like I'd always been there. And they're like, you're with us now. And I got to watch the entire concert from the first row for free. Meanwhile, my friends had no idea what happened to me because, like, you know, they're like, where'd Squirrel go? You know, where'd Chelsea go? And so then I like afterwards we got back up. I'm like, guys, I was in the front row, and like they like didn't believe me, but I actually had with my camera, I took footage from the first row of the concert. Back then, it was a digital camera. I'm dating myself here with my age, but anyhow. So yes, but that's a story. that's so basically anything goes. Like, you know, I don't condone crimes, but like, you know, sometimes the rules are stupid, I will say. And as long as you're not hurting anybody else, I see no problem in pushing the rules, breaking the rules, something like that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So yes. Adopt a squirrel. That's exactly right. It was an adopt a squirrel. That's what it was. That's what they did. And I'm so grateful to them too. That was so kind. Like they didn't have to do that, but that was awesome. You know what I mean? Good karma for those people. Adopt a squirrel. Hopefully you enjoyed your pho. And also, if you're driving, please drive safe. Right. Subverting the stupid rules. Yeah. There's some rules that matter. And then there's some rules that are stupid. Right. You know, that's my take. You know, I have definitely have a punk rock, if you will, or punk sensibility. I definitely come from that sensibility. Although I guess the Mohawk probably gave that away. So.
So that is an alternative approach to micro raise, but it's more labor intensive and it's more expensive.
So you either micro living or this other way that's more expensive and some like more issues with to get to something that you can put in the computer and find out who you're.
Yes.
What is that?
So this is just kind of a teaching strategy just to show that we have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great grandparents have color coded the grandparent lines to help us track how the matches fit.
Okay.
And when you do
Again, this is less important for our purposes today because she's going to get into how they actually match the DNA from a technical level. And there's the spinny wheel again. It's back. Y'all, this is so funny. Oh, look, great value water bottle. She great value, so she likes a good bargain. Can't say
and then it's up to the genealogist to essentially reverse engineer.
Yeah, love the Mohawk.
The trade based on the DNA matches.
Do you do that when you have to find out who this person is based on these various
The broth is normal for fun.
Do you have
It would be weird in public, but
when
normal.
you don't know who this person is, you got to identify this person based on
Yes.
So what do you do?
So you will get a list of DNA matches from your testing company. And they're sorted, that list is sorted by how much DNA they share with you. So it's not necessarily sorted by how closely related those people are to you. You get this list, and sometimes they use their real names, the people in the list. Sometimes they use an alias. Depending on the database, you may or may not be able to see their email address. And some of them will have their own family trees linked to their DNA results because they're doing the same thing you are. They're trying to research their family trees. A lot of them won't. And for the people who don't,
A lot of wolves.
figure out who they are, who their parents are, who their grandparents are, and build trees for them. It is time consuming.
Yeah, time consuming. That matters, right? As far as our calendar we were working on last night. Okay, this is interesting. So let's take a look.
IMLRGANS. The more centimorgans you share with someone on average, the more closely you are related. But it's possible, for example,
Interesting.
there's a range for most.
Okay, so what I'm going to say, take away from this is just looking at this chart thing, right? Is that what's interesting is that, you know, again, shared DNA is measured in centimorgans, but the match lists are sorted by centimorgans and not by biological relationship. That does matter. That does matter to understand kind of how this works on a very basic level, right? I always love how Peter Tragos, you know, lawyer, you know, he'll always be like, he'll be talking about something and then he's like, I'm no blah, blah, blah. And it'll be something that it's like really funny to me. I always laugh because it's like, of course, it's like something like, you know, I'm trying to think of an example. He might say something like, you know, he might be talking about a case. And he's like, now, you know, and they'll like preface it, right? Or give a disclaimer, you know, I'm no nuclear DNA analyst or something where it's like, it doesn't, it goes without saying. Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. And maybe if you guys watch, you know what I'm talking about, because he does this a lot and it's really funny. It's always with something really funny because it's like so outlandish. And he's never said something where it could be plausible. It's almost like saying, you know, I'm not an actual wizard. It's like, you know what I mean? So anyway, and what made me think of that is because in my mind, I'm like, you know, yeah, for those of us who are not DNA wizards, you know, we're looking at it from just what makes sense for our purposes so we can understand it as normal people. I think the sorting part is interesting, right? Because this matters for what we're getting into here. So.
And if you put the profile in and receive
So
matches
crazy
in
how
various
close they're in
places,
on his face.
you're looking at these sense organs to try to get a clue. What do you do after you have this information to tell you about sense organs?
So I have to essentially build trees for these matches. The first step in the process is to figure out how they are related to one another. Before I can figure out, for example, if I'm trying to help an adoptee, find their biological parents. To figure out how they are related to their matches, first I have to figure out how the matches are related to one another.
Wow. So what's interesting about this to me is this is outlining, you can see why this process takes time. And that matters for our discussion. Because what she just said is you can't just get matches, right? You have to, hold on, let me make sure. I don't want to mess this up. Right. To build the family tree, right? So you have to figure out how people are related, but before you can figure out how they are related, oh gosh darn it. Hold on. I don't want to. Hold on.
Help an adoptee, find their biological parents. To figure out how they are related to their matches, first I have to figure out how the matches are related to one another.
Right. So how the matches, how do the matches relate to the other matches before you can even get to the people relating to the matches? That's what it comes down to. And you can see, even just again from this high level, you know, example, how this is time consuming. And again, that really matters here.
And then I kind of reverse engineer where my adoptees
same kits, same. I know. Good one, Flash. Good one.
So we mentioned earlier one of the tools
I do not
that
know what a
helped develop
lactose
for analyzing DNA results. This is a set of screenshots from this shared centimorgan tool. It's also sometimes called the shared centimorgan project tool. That's too many syllables. So what you do is you will type in the centimorgan amount for one of your matches. On the previous slide, the top match was 72 centimorgan. So if I were,
let me go ahead a little bit. Let's see. Again, Miss Vargas is probably the most crucial. Well, but the spinning wheel, let's just say how crucial the spinning wheel is. Not. Could do some more Monty Python quotes. Oh, interesting. Okay. Bears, beats, Battlestar.
You have to build trees for each of the matches so that you can find those connectors.
yes, and I have to fill out both sides of a mattress tree because I don't know if my person's interest is going to be related.
I don't think she's saying mattress tree, by the way.
Their mother's side or on their father's side. I don't know which grandparent it's through. So I essentially have to build the whole tree back several generations to find the connections.
Are these decisions that you as a genetic genealogist have to make to do your work finding the matches?
Yes, I have to continue to build trees things.
Now, do you have to build trees for all of those 35 matches? Or do you do it until
That's a good question.
you figure out who the people?
There are some matches that I may not be able to build trees for. I can't figure out who they are. So on this slide, there's only 5 matches shown, and so only 2 of the people of that 5 have posted their own trees. That little icon that I'm pointing the arrows at, so that those 2 matches have built their own trees, and so that saves me a lot of work because I can look at their tree, and rather than having to build it from scratch, I can. They've listed their parents and grandparents.
So let me just touch on this real quick. So I actually know someone who does this I'm just remembering it now. So I actually know someone who does this as a hobby. Now I remember Frankiefigs, aka Franks, who is oftentimes here in the chat, has actually again been accepted into an actual forensic IGG program, right? But I actually know someone who does this as a hobby. Now the key thing to remember is this started out as a hobby. That's where this originated. The IG thing started out as a hobby with the family tree thing. The people wanted to learn about their family history. That's how this started out. And so the person I know who actually does this, and I'm just dawning on me now as I hear her explain it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Because like when I hear IGG, I think trials or cases, right? And again, it's almost like I'd kind of forgotten that. Oh, right. Like this person that I know, like enjoys working on family trees. That's what they do for a hobby. And so like on ancestry.com, one of the big sites for this type of stuff, right, is you don't have to, but you can build your own family tree. Because again, for some people, this is a hobby. So they like put together their own family tree. But the reason I'm mentioning is because what she just said is really important, right? That if they go and find a match and it's somebody who's already built their own family tree, it saves her a lot of work because they've already built the tree. But to that end, that just goes to show you how this is something that you can do without having training, because these are just random people. Like the person I know, not that they're a random person, but in other words, it's a hobby, like where you just have to, in other words, where it's at right now is it's less about the training and more about the time, at least again, where it's at now, right? You have to have the time to go through the matches and look into things. So that's where it's a hobby. Now, again, any training programs are new and they're in the works and they're trying to make it more standardized. And again, this is just the beginning of this entire frontier, as they say. But yeah, like building family trees, the way people used to do with like, I don't know, newspaper articles or pen and paper. I don't really know. I don't know how people used to do it in the olden times. But see, now they do it this way, using people's DNA matches and whatnot, right? And so there's people who actually really get into it and they want to connect with people in another country that have a distant relative, say, right? They can do that. It's this whole thing. So yeah. It's fascinating. And then it's fascinating to think how that worked its way into, law on crime, essentially, right? Like cold cases. And again, it is just really interesting. Oh, here we go again. Here we go again.
So I can just go ahead and double check, make sure that they put the right people down, rather than having to build the trees from scratch. The other people, I either have to build.
Sorry, I get Spinny. The METH part is what slays me. Spinny wheel, spinny wheel, spinny wheel of death. Oh, what hell you put us in? Blah, 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 blah. METH. Brilliant. That's the best thing I've literally ever seen in my lifetime. Thank you so much for that. The METH part is the best. That is amazing. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
From scratch, if I could figure out who they are, or sometimes I may just have to skip them if they have a really common name and I don't know where they live or what their age is. I may, if it's John Smith, I may never be able to figure out who they are and build out a tree for them because there are thousands of John Smiths.
Common name, one would think.
I think this graphic shows us the process and how far you have to build trees for the matches to try to identify the one person. Do I understand that right?
Yes, this is just a simple example where I've built out two hypothetical trees for two hypothetical matches. In which case, in this examples, I've gone out to the first great grandparents.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for connections between match. So match one is on the left, match two is on the right. I'm looking for commonalities between their two trees. I want to see how match one and match two are
right between their two trees. Again, this to me, what I'm taking away from this is just the process of this. And this is not an overnight thing. We may come back to her. We may. But here's the thing, because I want to get into Miss Vargas because she explains this really well. And she's like one of the first, she's like the person of this. That makes no sense. She's like the reason that we have this whole thing. So let me pull this up. God, this freaking spinny wheel. So, okay. And we will probably come back to the other lady. But we might, I just want to make sure, I just want to make sure we have time to get to Miss Vargas. So, okay.
So before we talk about.
Oh my God, the way her shirt matches my ticker is incredible. That is not planned, people. Wow.
A little bit more about your educational background. After high school, did you have more formal education?
I did. I went on to the College of San Mateo and received a degree and certificate in administration of justice and post-certification. And then I went on to San Jose State University and studied criminology
Your background's
and
really interesting.
minor in sociology.
Did you graduate?
I did.
And was that with a bachelor's degree?
It was.
What year was that?
Really in. I want to say 2010 maybe. Really not. I don't remember.
It's been a few years since you graduated.
It's been 5 years.
Did you take any courses in forensic genetics?
At that time, this did not even exist.
The question was, did you take any courses in forensic genealogy? She says this did not exist. Exactly.
And the courses only have started to recently come out. There is no current standard of certification for work of investigative genetic genealogy.
Is that newer in your college education degree?
Absolutely. This is a technique that only has come to light in the last 5 years.
There you
We're
go.
talking about the forensic investigative genetic genealogy.
Yes.
How did you get interested in it?
I really had no knowledge of it when I got involved. I had some health issues that I was going through and needed genetic testing. Unfortunately, my insurance wouldn't cover it, so I took direct-to-consumer
Neither all of us here.
DNA test and used the results to upload to my
Insurance wouldn't cover it.
In the process of that, I found out that my father was not my father, and I then went on a mission to figure out how to identify who my biological father was.
So personally involved in investigative very much.
Be here.
100% self-taught.
There you go.
And this was a time in my life where I was going through cancer treatment. I had a very short prognosis of lifespan left and became incredibly depressed. And so once I identified my biological father, I then wanted to give back. And so I started a free online Facebook group for people who had gotten the same results or were adopted or donor conceived. And I started finding their relatives for them.
That turned into you attending trainings for genetic genealogy.
So at the time, I did not.
Yeah, and
so in
it's funny
2008,
because it's also like the way her hair, I mean, it's doing weird things with my brain as well. Her hair also, like, yeah. By the way, that color of her hair is one of the time. Well, my mohawk that I had was a lot of different shades of like reddish purple, but it was one of those shades that it was like that color. So that's also like one of my favorite colors. It's really funny, but also it kind of like matches with the core. I don't know. It is interesting.
in the spring is when I started doing just genetic genealogy, which is the same concept essentially, but you're just doing it with adoptees, donor conceived and unknown parentage cases. I did a lot of online readings and reading scholarly articles, watching tutorials, just learning about the technique itself. I didn't have any involvement in investigative genetic genealogy until August 2019, when I was asked to join one of the companies that provides that service.
When you joined that company, did they train you in those methods?
No, they actually presume that you have to know what you're doing in order to be a part of the team. And so the presumption is made that you already have enough experience. I continued my own education and training by attending conferences, doing workshops, following other pioneers in the field that had successful case rates.
I know.
And continued to just educate myself through what I could find on the internet. Because at that time, certification programs, accreditation, any sort of courses, they didn't exist. Those are very, very recent things that have come.
I was just thinking about Frank's. If Frank's ever watches this episode on replay, she's like, God, you talked about me a lot. But like, just thinking about that because like what she's saying is so true, right? These are very, very recent, but that would include the program that Frank's got accepted into to do forensic investigative genetic genealogy because it's becoming a thing, right? So now there are things but it's in the baby steps process. It's in the baby process. It's a baby. Let's just go with that.
You mentioned that there were groups of people that you really found work with. Did you check your work or have you checked your work?
Oh, absolutely. The first company, so I've worked for two well-known companies in this industry, and then I have created since my own company. One of the first company, you worked individually on cases, but it's a collaboration amongst the team, and so you keep each other up to date on what's going on. You ask for advice, guidance, help. The second company that I worked for was more of a team structured way of working cases. And that was at the point when I began actually training all incoming volunteers that wanted to get to learn how to work these cases.
That first company you worked for, what was that called?
Identifinders International,
How many years did you work for Identifinders?
just over 2.5 years.
And that's where you did investigating genetic genealogy and other genetic work.
Yes, with Identifinders, I only did suspect cases, so only
That's a clever name, Identifinders. Clever name.
murder and rape, violent crime cases. They did not do DOE cases at the time that I was working with them.
So you're talking about those kind of cases that you did, those were law enforcement, you were identifying somebody that was under.
Yes,
Okay, you were just checked there, so you did that for 2.5 years.
yes.
So that matters. That question again, you can't hear it because of the potato, but she's saying you were working with cases where it was somebody was unknown, and that matters because when it comes to law enforcement using this, right? The point is they start with an unknown sample, right? They don't. It's not like you start with a person, you get their DNA, right? It's the opposite. It's like you have this DNA on this thing and you don't know where it came from, and you have like nothing. That's that's the whole thing. And so that's why she asked that question.
You worked for that.
The DNA DOE project.
What do you mean by that? You mentioned that.
DOE is an unidentified remains. The DNA DOE project specifically takes on adult DOE cases, not baby cases. So I work those cases on my own with my company, but it's identifying not suspects, only unidentified remains.
So again, similarity there still is, again, on unknown, unidentified DOE people. DOE people.
We're not law enforcement there. You were not waiting for law enforcement there, so it's a little bit different. Do I understand that?
So for both companies, we were working on behalf of law enforcement. We would contract these cases with law enforcement, but law enforcement was not in fact working the case. The genealogists were working the cases.
Now this is what I mentioned. Was it either last night or the night before? But on one of the live streams where I mentioned, because no, it would have been 2 nights ago, because in the state's motion for the protective order, right? The state is putting how vaguely describing how they went about this process. And if you recall, I pointed it out because I was like, hey now, because they said, Bill Thompson says that the FBI built the family tree and the FBI worked this and did all this, right? And he says that a couple times. Later on, he contradicts that, and then he goes back to saying it again in other filings. But I called it out at the time. It's probably timestamped, knowing me, because I said, hey now, that's not how this works. And she's going to describe right now, this part I found really interesting, guys, of just how little role law enforcement, like they don't know how to do this. Like that's the thing. They don't know how to do this. She's going to explain how when she's working a case, it becomes her case and law enforcement doesn't touch it. Listen.
Or law enforcement.
Yes.
All right. And so how long did you work at that?
I was with DNA DOE project for about 2 years.
And is that where you did some teaching and training about genetic genealogy?
Yes.
From there, where did your career take you?
Well, I ended up opening my own company, but the DNA DOE project offered me the opportunity to be an intake specialist. So my primary role was when somebody was interested in doing this type of work and wanted to learn the technique, we would bring them on board. And I was the one who would teach them the process. So all new volunteers were on a specific case that was run by me. And I would not only train them, but also check their work, make sure that they were documenting things properly and that the documents matched with the proper person that they had put in the tree. I also, the University of New Haven had also started a forensic investigative genetic genealogy course that you could take that had a practicum at the end of it.
So the University of New Haven. So it sounds like they were like maybe the first people to do that.
DOE project was the first organization that took on a cohort of students.
A cohort?
First year of this course that was offered, it was it wasn't fine-tuned. So the students that I took on for the internship, there were 6 students in total. They really had very limited knowledge of the technique, of the meaning of anything really. And so I would spend hours training them, and at the end of 7 weeks, I led them to a solve of a case.
You were trusted with me.
Yes, I was.
7 weeks.
Do you know roughly how
7 weeks.
any law enforcement or the investigative.
You know Russian. That's funny. But it's just funny that it says that because I'm almost fluent in Russian. So. That's not what she said.
I have worked just for law enforcement cases, probably around 25 to 30.
And the Bill project, how many of those kind of cases?
So that would include all cases.
The 25 cases.
Yeah, it's about 25 to 30 would encompass any case that I have worked that is law enforcement case, not including the cases that were unknown parentage cases.
And of the other kinds of genetic genealogy, how many times have you worked with case in genetic genealogy other than that?
How many cases? Minimum 25. I still have people every day who, it depends. Some people just don't know what any of this means. And so it's as simple as just looking at their matches and explaining it to them, and they do it on their own. But actually working cases, probably another 25 to 30 that are just unknown parentage cases.
And have you testified before in court?
I have not.
So
Let's talk about what we do here.
I'm just going to help us out here because of the stupid potato. The question was, have you testified in court before? And she says she has not.
You did it all in our case.
I was contacted by defense.
Okay, here we go.
Well, I take that back. I was
The
contacted
question is, how did she get involved in this case?
by somebody in this field. I don't know if I can
Okay,
say
let's
it was
go.
or if it's relevant, asking if I would be willing to talk to the defense. And I agreed. And I had that, it was a Zoom call in which I was asked basically just to explain the process. In
Oh,
which
by the way, just in case, as far as the Delphi sentencing, for anyone who hadn't heard the story, the day that verdict came out, which I'll never forget it. Like when that verdict came out, like I went into the bathroom and pierced my eyebrow. And it helped. Like I just had to, it helped, I will say, because then it's like, you have to figure out how to get like the right angle with the needle and like, not drop the little balls that if for any of you guys who have piercings know the balls are a nightmare, right? So that's a whole thing. Anyway, yeah, I'll never forget that day.
go through from start to finish on
Right.
my case. So
There it is. Flash punched the fridge. I pierced my eyebrow. Feel free to share, guys. What did you guys do when the Delphi verdict came out? We could actually have we could keep a collection of everybody's reactions because I think it's interesting. Like I literally, when the verdict came out, like I froze, and then I was like, literally couldn't even think a thought, and then I would just like went into the bathroom, pierced my. I remember it so well. It was very weird. It's like crazy day.
is, from when law enforcement contacts me to when I provide the investigative lead back to law enforcement, what is the process? And that was the extent of my involvement at the time.
Ms. Vargas, what I want to do is I want to briefly run through what do you do when law enforcement calls you immediately? What's your first step?
So it's a complex, it's very complex. Essentially, law enforcement will contact me and say they have a case that they are unable to solve and they would like to, they like my services.
This is the crux of the matter. She is the lady that does all the things. And so this is the question: what happens when law enforcement contacts her? What does she do?
Evaluate what type of case is it, and are there any, what is the DNA that is involved? Do we have to extract the DNA? Have you already extracted the DNA? So there's a lot of preliminary questions. Once we establish that and they agree to take, have me take on the case, I have them set up to ship the sample, whether it be something that needs to be extracted to the lab that does that, or DNA that's already been extracted that needs to be sequenced. The law enforcement agency will then send that to a third-party forensic lab. At that point, when the lab receives the sample, I essentially take over the case until I provide the genetic lead back to, or the investigative lead back to the agency. In the meantime, I will stay in contact with usually the detective and provide updates on, did it pass quality check in the lab? It's being sequenced now. If the data file has been complete, it's gone through bioinformatics. I've uploaded it, to GEDmatch. Do you want to upload to FTDNA, family tree DNA, because there's an additional charge for that? And so I keep them kind of abreast as to what's going on. But essentially the case is mine, it's in my control, until I am done.
Okay, do you,
Like right there. That's
Yeah,
my preference. The case is mine until I'm done.
with law enforcement, do you take their direction, and if they say stop working, you stop working?
Absolutely. The case belongs to them. It is not my case. It is not my data. I am providing service for them. The only request that I have is they not have another company work the case at the same time, because it's just a lot of work that you go through. But I am at their direction. Yeah, I don't know.
So it's not as easy as just getting a profile and sticking it in your computer and having it.
Oh, absolutely not. I've had cases that have taken me 14 months to solve.
14 months.
Why, you mentioned you use GEDmatch or family tree DNA, but there's an extra fee involved in that. Can you explain that a little more?
So there's only, there's many direct-to-consumer databases, Ancestry, 23andMe, MyHeritage, Family Tree DNA, all of which you can order from the company a DNA test, spit in the tube, and send it off back to the company. Ancestry and 23andMe allow you to download your data and upload free to these other sites as a normal consumer. Law enforcement cases, however, are only permitted to be uploaded into Family Tree DNA and to GEDmatch for a fee. GEDmatch, however, is not a direct-to-consumer testing site. It is only a database where people take their test results from the company in which they tested and upload this site to the site to get more matches, essentially, or higher.
Let me hear that part again because this part matters. Spinny wheel. Why? I can't even think of a Christmas song. I'm running out of ideas. Oh, now we're getting this one. Oh, yes, indeed. So GEDmatch is a whole other thing, as we're going to hear. And so that is specific. That's only for law enforcement.
A DNA test, spit in the tube, and send it off back to the company. Ancestry and 23andMe allow you to download your data and upload free to these other sites as a normal consumer. Law enforcement cases, however, are only permitted to be uploaded into Family Tree DNA and to GEDmatch for a fee.
Law enforcement cases are only allowed to be uploaded into Family Tree DNA and GEDmatch for a fee.
GEDmatch, however, is not a direct-to-consumer testing site. It is only a database where people take their test results from the company in which they tested and upload this site to the site to get more matches, essentially, or higher, closer relatives, higher matches.
Does law enforcement have access to all of GEDmatch?
If properly uploaded, there's a fee that you must pay. You must upload through a separate database than the one in which consumers upload through. You must pay the fee, and you, depending on the case, may be limited on the matches that you are able to see.
So a couple things. I'm going to just say, so the thing with GEDmatch, right? So remember when we were saying before how there should be like some one thing that can pile all the results together, right? For the different companies, right? The different databases, right? GEDmatch is not that, but it is kind of like, well, you know, it's not that. The thing that GEDmatch does is that GEDmatch, it doesn't like automatically search all the things, right? All it does is you can choose, if you're somebody who's done one of these DNA kits, you can choose to have your profile or whatever put into GEDmatch to get more matches, because anybody from any database can put their stuff in there. So like, in other words, what still does not exist is a complete thing to search all of the different databases when it's non-criminal, right? That doesn't exist. So it's still weird, right? Because you got each different private company, but then you've got GEDmatch, but there's no way to know, right? Like in other words, the thing about GEDmatch is what GEDmatch would provide, for example, is the way that you can see matches from one of the different direct-to-consumer companies and then a separate one. Remember how like we were saying, you know, if you go and take a test on Ancestry and then your sister does one on 23andMe, you're not going to get matched, right? But if both of you guys, you and your sister, I'm referencing the earlier witness, right, upload those to GEDmatch, then you could see each other as matches. Does that make sense? So that's important. And then there was something else here. Hold on. Okay, now what she's getting into is the separate rules that apply for law enforcement when law enforcement is going to be using these consumer databases. Okay. And that matters. But the spinny wheel disagrees with me on that one. Come on. I don't have a Christmas song in mind, guys, or a holiday song. What else can we do? Oh my God. It's just awful. It's been like this past couple of days. I don't know why. It's not the internet. And this actually is YouTube, by the way. It's not StreamYard either, because it's been doing this even just like when I'm not streaming, if I'm using YouTube. Making up sounds and noises and sound effects. Excellent. Every time I think about, should I just like refresh it? It usually, before I can make a decision, it usually fixes itself. I'm at that point right now. Okay. Okay, hold on. Let me just refresh this. Oh my God, now, of course, right? What did I say? As I go to refresh it.
In which consumers upload through. You must pay a fee, and you, depending on the case, may be limited on the matches that you are able to see.
Why is that?
The terms of service have changed several times since the Golden State Killer case came out, and which investigative genetic genealogy became very popular. It used to have everyone opted in, then it GEDmatch opted everybody out, and you had to choose to opt into law enforcement matching as a consumer. Then it decided to automatically opt DOE cases in. So to break that down, if you were to take a DNA test of ancestry and want to upload to GEDmatch, when you input that file, it's going to ask you, do you consent to law enforcement matching? And if you hit no, and I am working violent crime non-DOE case, I should not be able to see that you are a match to my unknown DNA contributor.
You said should not.
Should not.
Should not. This is important. So what she's explaining is that if you are one of these people, like I've been one of these people, right, where you use one of these services, you opt out of GEDmatch, law enforcement should not be able to see your DNA. So why does that matter? Again, because in other words, this is people, right? They want their health. They want to look at their health. They want to, their heritage and all that, right? Law enforcement doesn't have the right to that data, right? So in other words, it's by a volunteer basis, essentially. But people that do these tests, if they say, you know what, I want to right, exactly, Heather. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You're like, I want to help law enforcement. I want to, help them solve cold cases or exonerate wrongfully convicted people, then you have to make that decision, and they should not be able to access unless you consent. And then it's going to take it a step further when she talks about my heritage, which is exactly the experience I had. And I can speak to that here.
It does. It has.
And is that because there's a problem with GEDmatch? It's just if you upload it and all of a sudden these things that shouldn't happen did?
There is.
So you might notice, I got on 1.5 speed, but you might notice a difference in how she seems a little hesitant to answer some of these questions about, again, you can't hear it because of the potato, but she's being asked more questions about is law enforcement able to see these other, like, is there exceptions, right? Because remember when she said law enforcement should not be able to see it, and then Antiel goes, should not, and she goes, should not. It's like, uh-oh. Kits, I was so happy to see you. Have fun with your students. Thanks for being here. Hope to see you again soon, my friend. But no spoiler alerts in the chat, though, Heather. Not everybody knows.
There are a lot of tools that are available in GenMatch. These tools allow you to make comparisons of 2 or more people and how they relate to each other and share DNA. One of these tools allows you to compare many matches, not only against your DNA profile that you're working, but also against all of their matches to see if their matches match each other. When you utilize this tool, there is a feature that you can edit the list of kits that are originally selected.
What does that mean?
Look at her.
So when
Look at how careful she's being. So this is where we're getting to hear about how there's a workaround, okay?
you upload your profile, it takes about 24, 48, 72 hours max to batch and tokenize in the system. It then produces a list of matches, okay? And these matches are biological relatives to the unknown DNA contributor. We don't know right away what relationship they are, but they are all biological relatives, okay? One of the tools is called the matrix tool. And what the matrix does is it compares the match, the DNA profile against a specified number of the profile's matches. So for example, if I run the profile's kit number, they're all given a kit number. If I run the profile's kit number and I compare it to 100 of the profile's top matches, it will in turn compare the profile to all of the matches and all of the matches to everyone on that list of 100 people. Okay?
I see what you're saying. Let me make sure. So you have one person, you get a list of their matches, but this tool also gives you a list of those matches.
So it's a multi-step process. So initially, if I am putting my subject's DNA in the system, I don't know who it belongs to. I put their kit number in. You get a kit number after you upload the data. Okay. I put the kit number in. I run a tool called one-to-many, and it's going to show the top 500 matches that this subject has. I then would go to utilize the manipulation tool, the loophole. You would then go click the top match and run their matches. So the top match of your subject's top match, you would run their matches.
Right.
Okay. Once you run their matches, there is a tool that allows you to edit that list of matches. So we're looking at the matches of the subject's top relative, not the subject's matches, right? When you edit the kit list, if you put the subject's kit number into this tool that you're going to now analyze these matches, it tricks the system and allows you to see matches that you wouldn't have seen if you ran your initial match list.
Crazy.
Incredible
too.
Those matches that are revealed are only matches that have been opted out.
Only matches that have been opted out. Incredible that somebody first of all figured out this loophole. But did you guys hear that? Let's listen to that one more time. Hopefully it won't spin a wheel.
And those can be people that did not agree on.
So the question is, and does that list include people who have been opted out?
Yeah, those matches that are revealed are only matches that have been opted out.
Only opted out, which blows the mind, does it not? Like, that is just insane. So only the matches that have opted out. So yeah, problems, people. Problems.
Well, that is the only one.
They're only the ones. If you see that the subject matches one of these people, because again, you're not looking at your subject's matches, you're looking at that person's top cousin, let's say, that top cousin's matches, right? When you put your subject's kit number in there, you're going to see now his kit, her kit, compared against the matches of their top match. When you find, you then scroll down and you look, oh, here's a match for 100 centimorgans. You go back to your screen where you have your list of your suspect matches and you say, I don't have a match with 100 centimorgans. That proves that that person has opted out of law enforcement action, but I'm still able to see them.
Ugh.
And so that's a way to use this tool to get past what law enforcement is supposed to do.
I struggle with this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It is a tool that is provided in the database that essentially allows you to see things that you're not supposed to see.
Wow.
And as a result of seeing those things, you're then using that match to find who, to identify your subject. So you're violating the terms of service
Wow.
by seeing these matches. This is the agenda match.
How about family tree DNA? That's the other law enforcement strategy.
There's two things that I'm aware of in family tree DNA. One is not paying to upload. So there's very strict parameters when it comes to law enforcement kits. One of the parameters.
This is where it gets worse. So just in case that wasn't enough, right? Where they can see the people who opted out, which is crazy. There's another workaround when it comes to the family tree DNA.
Is if you as a consumer are a match to a law enforcement kit, you cannot see that kit as a regular consumer. So law enforcement kits can see everybody in the database that has opted in. Now, Family Tree also has an opt-in out feature that is not the same as GEDmatch. You have to go into the settings and find it and toggle whether or not you choose to opt in or out. Many people are unaware of this. Another instance is uploading the data as if you were a consumer. You bypass the fees that you're supposed to pay to Family Tree DNA for a law enforcement kit, whereas a consumer it's free. And you also get full access to the database, including matches that have opted out.
Does this happen?
Yes.
If I'm referring,
Wow.
I have a case where genetic genealogy is utilized by law enforcement. And I want to know if they follow the rules.
Yeah. So the thing is, though, is that as it pertains to Judge Hippler, that's the whole thing. That whole Frank's motion is all under seal. It's IGG. He's going to be privy to all this, right? He's going to be provided the same information and then some. 100%. This is all. I mean, of course, if he wants to, he could obviously watch the hearings, but he's going to be provided with all this. And remember, these witnesses also had provided, reports and things, and some, of course, under seal too, right? But they've got. He's got all this. Judge Hippler has all this, and there's not been any ruling about that Frank's hearing yet, but I feel like it's going to happen. It'll be really interesting to see what he says. And that's the thing. That's where, again, it just adds to it, right? Like, so in other words, law enforcement can upload as a consumer, so then they can bypass the fees, they can see more matches, and then they can also potentially, right? And these are things that can happen. They can be on GEDmatch and use that loophole and see people that opted out. And this is, again, like I kept saying at the beginning of this whole thing, where this gets crazy, right? Because you've got this weird overlap of, you've got these private businesses and private citizens, and they're just doing their thing. And then you have law enforcement getting involved, and now things get really complicated. And it's like a lawless territory. Spinny wheel. Oh, really? That's interesting. Huh. 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 I know I just said that a bunch of times, but that I do find that interesting because it seems like she's one of their most important witnesses. Now, having said that, if she's not still working for the defense, everything she testified to, again, it would still be a part of the record and would still be a part of their Frank's motion and would still be turned over, right? Judge Hippler would have it regardless.
Genealogy information that, like you produce as a forensic genetic genealogist. So I need that information so I don't know.
If you wanted to know what the process was, whether or not there was work product, if you wanted to verify, how did you come to your conclusion? Absolutely.
How about if I wanted to know what the rules were?
You would need the data. You would need to see the data.
This is the second one. I know.
have one that law enforcement uses. Many in this industry have been known to upload to MyHeritage. Essentially, these
Okay.
databases, you're only bound by the terms of service.
So MyHeritage,
And
that's the
there
one I
are workarounds in every one of the databases that somebody knows about and has told you about, or you yourself have tried.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah,
there's really
okay.
no-
So here's the thing. So as far as if she's not working for the defense anymore, so I guess I interpreted that to mean that there was something that said she wasn't working for the defense. Here's the thing. So the way I interpret that her name isn't listed there to access the IGG and in terms of the most recent people, I don't think one can assume or, that means she's not working for them and here's why, right? Because they didn't bring her in. What did they bring her in for, right? They brought her in to explain how the process works, law enforcement, the back door, blah, blah. It doesn't seem like they are using her to look at the IGG. And there could be a reason for that, right? Because of a conflict. And they've got the other lady, Leah Larkin, right? And I know she's been mentioned. They've got Leah Larkin, and then they have that other dude. But in other words, it doesn't look like they are relying on her to double check and look at the DNA or the IGG or anything like that. I think they brought her in for exactly what we're seeing here, is for like the inside scoop, the tea, as it were, right? So in other words, I don't know that she would need to be given access to, you know what I mean? Does that make sense, guys? So I wouldn't, I don't know. I don't know that it means definitively that she's not still working for them. Like, in other words, I don't know that she needs more access to more information, right? Like, or it may just be that they don't need her anymore. Like, it might be that they got what they needed from her at this hearing. I mean, this testimony is really important and really huge, and it's on the record, and here it is, right? Maybe that's it. Maybe they just don't need it. What more could she provide, right? I mean, I don't know.
Justification for it. You think you're doing the right thing, you want to help, and
There's a lot of information in genetic genealogy.
it is a very tedious process. There is a lot of time, effort, and work that goes into it. In the end, what I provide to law enforcement is an investigative lead, and it is up to the agency to then take over their case and confirm that my lead is in fact correct.
How does law enforcement upload to MyHeritage?
So the upload to these databases is you go to the website, you create a free account, you take the data file, you hit upload, and voila, you've got now a list of matches. It's the same as a regular consumer would do in both MyHeritage and Family Tree DNA. GEDmatch law enforcement uploads now through a separate portal called GEDmatch Pro, but there are instances of people doing work on behalf of law enforcement uploading to GEDmatch through the consumer portal as if it were a consumer kit.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. I'm not sure if you have to address it.
Thank you, Ms. Vargas. Appreciate you.
Okay. And then we know it's so interesting, right? How they're like, we're going to defer cross-exam. Zooming in is wild. I can't get over it.
Our last witness is Becca Vargas. She's probably in the small library.
Oh, Vicka Barlow. Why do I not have? What is? Oh, that's odd. So it's actually not frozen. It's like the feed. Do you guys remember every feed that was doing this was having issues this day? So I don't know where the Vicka Barlow part is. Why is it not? Okay. Let me go back to the other part. Hold on just a second. I did not see Ingrid's face. Let me back up and look at her face. Just like stuck on his face here for a hot minute.
Becca Vargas. She's probably in the small library.
Oh, I guess it was before this.
This one is excused. Thank you, Ms. Vargas. Appreciate you.
So her face, so right here. So I don't know. It looks like she's smiling, but maybe I'm not interpreting that correctly. What do you guys think?
Our last witness is Becca Barlow. She's probably in a small library.
And now it's doing that thing again. Who is Lana? I don't remember who Lana is. Okay, so let me pull this back up, and I'll see if I can find.
Right, and so what I'm looking for now, so I figured I found these two match one and match two who are second cousins to one another. What I'm looking for now are ways to integrate more DNA matches into that tree that I've just got my hook on.
Why do you want to do that?
Because the more DNA matches I have, the stronger my statistical analysis or where my person of interest gets into that tree.
You know,
So if I'm working an adoptee case, my goal is to get my adoptee into as many databases as possible. I always tell
the thing is, guys, do you remember what the deal was with Vic? Because I remember they were having so many issues with state. Did they even get the camera? Did they even get Becca Barlow's testimony? I don't remember. I'm trying to remember if that even happened or if it was just like everybody missed that. I feel like that might be what happened. Do you guys remember? Time travel. So, who was Lana? Who talks to Lana and who's Lana? So you're saying that Becca Barlow did get, okay, weird. Let me look for that real quick.
all those tested ancestry because that's the biggest database. Then 23andMe because it's the second biggest. And then my heritage is the next in size. And so I want to get them into all of these databases because I can do this. I can build this tree using some matches from Ancestry and some matches from 23 and some from my heritage. And again, I'm doing this so that I have as much statistical data as possible when I try to place my person of interest into that tree.
Not when you have somebody who's doing their own DNA testing and then sharing their profile with you so you can build the tree out, try to identify who your biological is. It looks like you replaced the people, the matches, with numbers. What's going on here?
Those may be hard to see, but in this case, I'm showing an example listing the centimorgan amounts to the various DNA matches that I can manage to place into this tree.
In this one, you have a holding deadline you didn't have before. How did you figure it out?
So this is a hypothesis, it's an educated guess about where my person of interest might fit into that tree based on how much DNA they share with those 5 matches that I could document. And it might be right, it might be wrong, it's just an educated guess. It's a way to guide my next step in the research. My next step in the research at this point might need to dig into another database and see if I can find more matches. I would run the what are the odds analysis tool to see what other hypotheses might fit.
You want to tell me about the what are the odds tool now?
Sure, I can. That's a different slide. So this is the what are the odds tool. You basically build the descendant diagram that was on the previous slide, but into this tool. You enter the centimorgan amounts, so that's the measure of shared DNA. You enter the centimorgan amounts into the Watto tool. So we call it Watto for short, WATO. So you enter the centimorgan amounts where those individual DNA matches fit into the tree, and then you can ask the tool to suggest possible hypotheses for you. And that's what those teal boxes are. Those teal boxes are places where the tool is saying your person of interest could fit into this tree in this spot based on the DNA matches.
You know, it's weird. It's weird because even looking I can't find the Becca Barlow, I can't find the Becca Barlow testimony. Even looking online, it's just weird. Like the Court TV feed, it's like part 1, and it's got it's 50 minutes or something, and there's no part 2, right? I can't. It's very weird. I don't know what happened on this day, but I remember it was a disaster. I don't know where to find it. If anyone can tell me where to find it, because I think she seems to be one of their key witnesses on this. Because again, thinking about the names that come up a lot in the court filings, right? If who should have access to things, they use Vicka Barlow a lot. So,
Yes, Matterhorn.
oh, Leanna, truth, right. I do know Truth and Transparency. Yes, I do know that channel. I just didn't put two and two together with the name. Interesting. Yeah, I do know that channel. So if somebody else has it though, where did they get it, right? Because it would have to be, I mean, unless they captured it at the time, but any other channel that has it, usually they're using something from like a local news network or, a court TV or, so like I'm using East Idaho News, and it has all 4 parts, but part 4 is what we just watched. Like part 4 ends with Miss Vargas and there is no part 5. So, yeah, it's really funny because like the May 23rd hearing, I think it is, there's other hearings where like, if you didn't have it at the time, you couldn't get, anyway, when I started covering this case, I did start doing that where I reported things at the time, like myself, so that I would have it. And, but now, of course, now that things are available, I don't know. It's just weird, very weird. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not gonna, the thing is like, if it's another channel where if it's a channel where it's just the feed, right? It's like literally just the testimony without any commentary or whatever, right? That's a bit different because that's public, it's public access, right? Like that's, everyone can use it. But if it's like coming from a channel where it's like, you know what I mean? I'm just wondering where these other people got it, if they just captured it at the time. It sucks that it's not readily accessible or available. So what else was I going to say about that though? Yeah, like even Court TV, like Court TV only has 37 minutes of this entire day. Like what the heck is up with that? Like, again, that's why I think there were issues with like, people were having issues on this day. Because like, why would like same with Law and Crime, like normally they would have the entire day, right? So it's just weird. I'm trying to remember what was going on, right? Because does anybody remember? Was it like the court feed itself, or was it like, I mean, it must have been, because it seems to have affected every channel. It's just very odd. Yeah, I can't find. It's just very weird. Wasn't Truth and Transparency, wasn't she at Delphi for the trial? Am I thinking of the right channel? That might be where I've heard of her, because if so, I think I was watching some times when, us that were stuck where we live and like dying every second waiting for the verdict and stuff, and like, the attorneys were not giving minute to minute, you know what I mean, where it's like, okay, I haven't heard from anybody in 10 minutes, I'm going to die if I don't hear an update, even though there's nothing to say, right? I know you guys were with me on that. Like there was a lot of people that were like that, right? Where it's just because there's no information, it was so stressful. And like that, okay, that was her. Yeah. So I did watch, I was there. I don't know that I was like in the chat or whatever, because I was probably doing other things, but that's where I know her from, was from that. And she was awesome. I really liked her a lot. and she did a great job of doing the thing where like she was like almost always live, where like if you're just like stressed out, you can be like, okay, I didn't miss it. You know. Anyway, but I don't know what to do about the Vic Barlow thing. So so we'll just watch a little more of Leah Larkin.
So from here, there
Oh,
are
right,
several
that's right.
hypotheses
I
there.
remember that. Yeah. I just don't know how she got it, but
Thank
that's awesome.
you. There are several hypotheses there. So what I want to do, and each one of them is going to have a score. And so what I want to do is focus on the hypotheses that have the highest scores, because those are the ones that are most likely. And I might investigate whether, if I'm looking for birth father, was he in the right place at the time of conception, or was he serving overseas? If he was serving overseas, then I rule him out. I might reach out to members of his family and ask them to do
Sounds like an alibi double check.
Because then I can add their DNA match to this analysis and sort of slowly over time focus in on my most likely candidates, for example, if it's birth father.
Does that mean you reach out to the regular people that haven't chosen to do this and see if they voluntarily want to put their DNA in to help them with family tree?
Yes, at times I will do that.
I think we're ready for this slide.
Okay, so this is just it's the same tree, but I'm showing a different scenario in which the DNA matches were lower. They shared less DNA.
You know, it's also interesting. It's also interesting to note that Miss Vargas, her testimony is like 30 minutes or less. And then when you compare it to the other witnesses, at least the ones that we can find on here, like Leah Larkin and Mr. Mercer, the first dude, they're like an hour each or whatever. It's interesting that they didn't, like that's pretty short testimony for somebody in any circumstance, especially when you've got all the tea.
Tell me about that.
Okay, so next generation genome sequencing is a technique that you can use to analyze the entire human genome. You're not just focusing on the 600 or 700,000 bits that the genealogy company uses.
Okay, so she's just getting, this is just, again, I don't know that this is the level that we need right now. We're getting kind of into the weeds here. Please don't do this in front of a jury. Like, we started out, well, at least in my opinion, I started out like with, relevant, and now we're into just, it's just, again, to be like, to quote like a Peter Traeger, right? I'm not a DNA expert, like, but he would say it in a funnier way. Anyway, but here's the other thing I was thinking about for anyone who, if you guys want, because last night we watched the hearing from, but I get my ears mixed up. May 30th, 2024, motions to compel, right? We had Brett Payne, Cy Ray. If anyone wants to watch the May 23rd hearing, and again, of course, I covered that at the time, but it's different now, right? If anyone wants to watch that, again, because you hear from the other FBI or like Mallory and other people, right? I was amazed I was able to find it. So I found it and I made it a note. So if anybody wants to watch that, we can. But otherwise, what's next? I think the next thing I would be doing, apart from that, unless we do that, would be whenever the next documents come out for Kohberger, which there should be something any day now because it feels like it's been crickets for a minute, and that's unusual for this case. But having said that, there's plenty of other stuff going on, but I'm just thinking as it pertains to this case. But yeah, so tonight at 8, please join us for Shanna Gardner. Kurt from Uncivil Law was in the chat on one of the Shanna Gardners. And hopefully he will be back. That would be awesome. And I don't know if he's following the case or what, but he was there for a good while. And but yeah, so we will be having that tonight at 8. And then tomorrow I think I'm covering Murdoch's appeal, and maybe we'll do the Sarah Boone letter. But yeah, guys, do let me know if you do want to go over the May 23rd hearing, or if anyone can find another way to get that Becca Barlow testimony, that would be helpful too. I mean, but I've tried, I can't seem to find it. I just, it's annoying. So, but it was fun. We covered a lot of ground. We talked about a lot of different things, donuts and cheesy potatoes and, squirreling and hairdos and pho and burning a milkshake and all kinds of things. It was very diverse. We learned a lot, hopefully. But I think I will go ahead and get some things done in preparation of the next live stream. So Flash is going to take a nap. Excellent. But y'all are awesome. And thanks so much for being here. And thanks for all y'all's help as always. Thanks for being a squirrel. And I'll see y'all on the next one.